Live. It's alive.
I plugged in my mouse, not my microphone.
Nice. Well, you should have been holding your mouse and talking into it. That would have been the best way.
You have joined the right crew, my friend. All professional here.
You guys hear me? Is this working?
How about now?
Yeah. Put it click the or right click and see if that changes.
Should I do Morse code? Would that work?
Stare into the laser light. Stare into it.
Click Alt F4. I can't believe my college roommate actually got people to do that in chat rooms. It's hilarious.
Click Alt F4.
Of course, he was in the Christian Truckers AOL chat room.
That sounds like kind of an
interesting place to go. He was usually either trolling Christian truckers or hanging out with stoners playing crappy guitar music.
He sounds like he was circling very different groups for very different reasons.
Yeah, pretty much.
But all in all, just overall immaturity maybe was his forte, was his MO.
He's turned out all right. For a while there, I was like, he dropped out of college to join a band, which was horrible because that dude seriously had one of the best mathematical brains I've ever seen. He was becoming a mechanical engineering major and just dropped out his last half a semester.
Wow, half a semester. That's really fumbling.
But he's doing good now. Has a nice wife, couple kids. Things are going well.
Fantastic. All right. Well, guys, we're going to talk about the old apps out there. I've got my phone. If I am staring at it during the episode, somebody start talking because, I'm a millennial. And if you give me a phone, I cannot actually function.
I only do that during
I had to look at my phone just now because you said the word phone.
What? There's my phone. Okay, I felt insecure. I didn't have my phone. Okay,
mine's upstairs charging.
All right. I know, Andy. You haven't got my Snapchat yet.
No. Actually, no. I turned mine off.
You're breaking our steps.
I've been texting you for half an hour. Why didn't you answer? I'm like, because I turned my phone off. And she's like, but I was texting you. That's why I turned it off.
Oh, man. Oh, my goodness. That sounds like, your dad and daughter, and that's your conversation. That is... Andy, that's something special, man.
You know what's really fun to do to young kids, when they're sitting in the doctor's office, especially when they're desperately waiting for one of their high school friends to Snapchat them or message them? Because I saw my daughter doing that. She was staring at it, just obviously waiting for a text. So I texted her, made you look.
That is awesome. Just sitting there staring at it. I feel like you should almost have increasing tension string music accompanying that stare, and then it just hits, it hits the nasty chord.
Oh,
and then it's you. You're just
really,
smiling.
It's not really bad until you take a picture of the face they're giving you after you did it.
Oh man. So yeah, you made her text, then took a picture while she was looking at it, then sent her that. So she looked at her phone again, except this. Oh, Andy, this is great, man. This is good stuff. Actually,
yeah.
Wow. For once, I'm right there. I kind of wish that you had this captured on camera.
That's good times.
That's good stuff, dude. Yeah. TC, how's it going for you?
Good. I am rather dumbfounded by this. We're going to be talking digital games. Boy, do I have a bunch to talk about because as soon as I got
fresh off the press here,
I did some homework for you guys. I'm like, I'm going to try this out. And oh my goodness, has this been a journey already?
Hot ink is just right now.
Yeah, this is
emanating from your mic. It is definitely fresh on the press.
Yeah, I think
is this where we lose Fantasy Flatties as a sponsor?
Yeah, this is where we don't talk about new hype. I think I'm right on it with this thing.
Anti-hype.
Well, it just came out, and so everybody's been talking about it. So I've been trying to follow up on all this stuff. So I really hope Trent makes it, but if not, I think I got it covered.
I think he's actually at his private sponsorship meeting with Fantasy Flight because that is.
Oh, that's true.
That is his forte. That is not. Yeah, the rest of us, like our sponsorship with Fantasy Flight, unfortunately gets put to the wayside when it comes to Trent. He's got him.
He's got him.
Pipeline.
Oh, they didn't like me. They're like, we're from Fantasy Flight, and I'm like, Fantasy what? Oh wait, don't you guys like put out games? I don't know, something. They're like pretty.
They're pretty.
What have you done this year anyway?
But are they really? I mean,
they're putting out a game that's unique for everybody.
Yeah.
Oh, so nice.
They don't put out paper maps. They're crap.
David, how
you don't
is
accidentally tear it when you take it out of the box, then it wasn't thin enough.
Oh crap! You know what I did though? That was really bad. I ordered a when I pick up Joe's Small City copy, I ordered like all like completionist crap,
everything,
and one of them had like the signed like thing from the designer, and I literally ripped it opening the package.
Perfect.
Oh well, perfect. Yes, Andy gets to do it again. Like
what I did was I just like taped it and then laminated it.
It is new.
It is new.
Was it duct tape though, or laminate?
That was laminate.
Oh, you should use duct tape. Then it'd be good as new.
Yeah.
Oh well, you should have just put it on the back of chipboard and then.
It was like the Godzilla expansion or something. It's not like anyone ever plays with it anymore. Although that would be up TC's alley. Playing Small City with the Godzilla expansion.
No, that'd be cool. Yeah. and King Kong too. It's like, yeah, what are you doing with those things? That's not part of the game. Oh, it's not? Oh, I thought this was like the cool part of the game.
It ranks right up there with Agricola in the fairy deck.
Oh my goodness, that's what I'm thinking. Like I just had that
with
thought.
The invaders.
Colonists with the invaders.
Like Colonists is not the type of game you expect to have like a tower defense invaders type of thing going on.
Carcassonne with the catapult.
Yeah. You should
Colonists invaders.
We should talk board games jumping the shark. Which board games have jumped the shark at some point?
Half of my collection. Actually, TC probably beats me on that. I would.
I made a discovery this weekend. And my discovery is, while I really enjoy playing brass, I really don't like teaching brass.
Wait, no, you can't build there. You don't tell me that. I thought I did.
Because we had a game where the guy didn't play the cards for actions. We got like towards the end, and the card count was all messed up. I was like, I just wasted 2.5 hours. I don't know how to fix
this. I play a card when I'm building, and all the other actions too.
Oh, you mean when I did that develop action, I had to play a card in addition to spinning the steel. Yep. Oh, well, I messed that up like 8 turns ago. I'm like, yeah, I can tell the card counts off. Thanks.
Well, guys, I got the outline here, and we are getting ready here to chat about the board game asset we've been playing. So the TC, you have actually been just playing one recently.
Right. We got business first.
We have business?
Yeah.
And also, yes, everybody listening there that's participated in our contest, maybe it will have been you that won this contest. You never know.
It was
I don't know why.
For both games.
Oh, Andy happened to win Andy's favorite game contest. Spot number 1 and spot number 2. I guess that's the problem when you're giving away 2 games that Andy doesn't have.
There was weighted. I was numbers 1 through 50 and 1 through 52. No, honestly, actually, I had about 50 entries by following the weird rules I did. So we'll go ahead and announce that now. And so the prizes were, I believe, Steamrollers and Wendicky. Is that right? Wendicky? Whatever that one is.
Yeah, Wendicky.
Was that the one that was like guilty of cultural appropriation? Okay, never mind. Moving on.
God, Andy, why?
So now, if you pick that as your first person,
Oh, yeah, of course. Now you're guilty of it
So
too.
what's that about Phil Eklund?
Done a great
Yeah,
job
Phil
announcing this. Am I gonna have to just take over here? And Andy, the announce.
It's
winner,
been a couple days. I don't know what's going to come out of my mouth.
It's a 3.5 rating of heaviness on Board Game Geek, and it has like in the high sevens average user rating, which is pretty incredible to pull both of those off at the same time. Higher complexity games, especially those that don't have name recognition built up with the designer. And this one looked to me to be a very cool Euro game, Windaki, and it looked like one. Let's put it like this: when I talked to Carmen, I was like, what do you think it looks good for our audience? And he said, well, this one right here. And I was like, well, yeah. So then I kind of put it in my cart.
Okay, click, done.
In my cart. I was like, okay, well then, Carmen, I like your thinking there.
There will be a copy for me and a copy for others.
Game, actually.
All right. So we're doing 2 winners, right? So the first winner will get their choice. The second winner will get the other one. I believe they will be shipped out from Game Surplus, right?
GameSurplus.com, bringing the world of board games to you. Thanks to our sponsor for donating these 2 games to our wonderful audience.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
He's free, I believe, free shipping to the U.S. And do they have to pitch in if they're outside or?
Yeah. It's like pay the first so much, basically pay the flat rate fee, and then anything after that you've got to chip in to get the game to you if you're far away.
And if you pay us enough, we'll send Joe overseas to hand it to you.
yeah.
You can keep Joe.
Premium. That's right. And also as an extra added bonus, we will actually allow you to send all of your children to Andy's house to stay with him for 1 month of boarding and raising and child raising, courtesy of the new domestic man and Andrew Dennison, member of the Good, the Bored, and the Ugly.
Oh yeah, stay-at-home dad this year. Oh, and if they send us children, food budget is less. Sweet. Okay, we're covered.
Heck, I'll throw in a tour of the Portland Underground while we're at it.
Although, if you do decide to have Joe shipped, please pay for a plane ticket. He did not appreciate being sent air freight last time.
Oh yeah, no, they just drilled a hole right through the earth last time because it was run by somebody in Australia.
I promise if we send you air freight, I'll remember to drill the air holes this time.
And don't forget, Andy, the earth is flat. So the journey that I'm talking about was yes, it is more like a plate shaped
on a giant turtle.
The 4 elephants. Were you?
I think it's
4
3.5.
It's Tatooine, the world turtle. Yes.
Yeah. So we have to figure out if it's a male or female or sexless to know if it's a Big Bang.
The
Big
turtles.
Bang model.
That's the elephants. They'll know.
Yeah.
Well, I think Andy was about to announce the winner of a contest that involved, like I said, amongst sending me out to give it to you in Europe and sending your family to stay with Andy in his new role as Mr. Doubtfire. The the winners of the contest.
All right, so we got him here. Okay, spreadsheet. Where's my spreadsheet? There's the spreadsheet. Okay, so our first winner is
Social Security number.
Yeah, Social Security number. Our first winner is actually Myrrh.
Yes, Myrrh.
That is just rigged.
Wait,
Yes.
doesn't Myrrh own every board game that's ever been made?
He certainly does, and he's the winner of the board game decathlon.
Yep. All right, and our second winner was Nathan Booster or Boster, whichever one.
Boster. Yeah, some hopefully.
Oh, Booster and 2 O's. All right, dyslexia, forgive me. All right. So Nathan Boster. So I will be getting in touch with them to get contact information to send on over to Carmen.
Well, I'm just thrilled to hear both of those winners. We've got a avid community that supports us, and Nathan and Mur are two two names that just immediately I haven't played games with them online, and Mur, who's here with us pretty much all the time. Like he's like he's our guardian angel, our podcast guardian angel. It's great,
especially when Andy's followers come in.
Now, Andy, there's still a question to be begged, though. What was the correct answer? Because of course, Mur could have spoiled it by now. He still hasn't.
Yeah, that was actually a tough one. Most people got it right. The correct answer would have been Tinner's Trail.
All right, I would have had it.
So it would have been Tinner's Trail would have been my first, Spirits of the Rice Paddy second, Alien Frontiers third. But remember, this is actually my middle of the road games overall, so it's ones I enjoy, but I'm not like about. So,
So you actually made it one where it was. You tried to make it tough. You tried to make it like these would be kind of on either side of the teeter-totter, so that way it wasn't super easy for you to make the choice. Thus, it shouldn't be hopefully super easy for the community.
Yeah, that I didn't want to do like out of these three, which one would I save? 1849, 1889, or 1844?
Yeah, but honestly, I think that would have been really funny. I think you could do that one maybe next time, Andy. Just do the all 18xx
which 18xx game would I save?
I mean, you're giving away steamrollers. That's at least kind of
dies in the fire with all of them.
Well, how awesome! Hey, Norm, welcome. Mur just won. He just won himself the first pick of the board game giveaway that we had, and I think as a result, he's buying us all the first rounds on him at the Good Board Ugly convention, which we're gonna make happen somehow, somewhere, sometime. And it might just be me going and visiting somebody else.
It'll be in Iowa, so it'll be in the middle of a cornfield during summer. So make sure to dress light. It's very humid. And
it rains half the time. You never know if it's going to rain or not going to rain.
It's going to be a drought. Climate change means drought. So we're going to do it in July in Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that I'm not used to it not raining here.
If you come in from like, Portland or Denver, it's going to be like literally hitting a wall of water when you step off the plane.
And then it will start raining later on.
Yeah. Then you're like, oh, the rain will cool things off. It never does.
When I went from Arizona to back to Iowa to where I
oh dear God,
like I got off the train, and I never thought of the train as like a very controlled environment. We've been on there for like 20-something hours, but like I broke out, dude. I broke out. Like Iowa, being in Iowa my entire life, and then leaving for like 9 days to go to the desert and coming back literally broke my skin. Like it just ruined that entire organ.
Yeah, no, we went to I went to LA once for like a week. I took my daughter to some convention there. Yeah, and literally we got onto like the jetway when you exit the plane, and seriously I'm like, yep, back in Iowa. I'm already starting to sweat, and I felt like I'm swimming in the air.
Yep.
Tell you what, like. I would rather meet somewhere in the middle than go to any board game convention, man. I would just love to play with you guys and make it a small group. Be great.
Oh yeah.
Like we could go to BGG or somewhere else where I can play with my buddies. Let's go to the someplace else because I don't want to fight a big crowd.
Yeah, I know.
Hey, how far is Portland from Salt Lake? That's about halfway.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. David's playing it.
David's playing.
There we go. The center. Yes, you are now in a central location. Good Board Ugly Mountain versus Good Board Ugly Pacific.
Yeah. East Coast versus West Coast.
David and the 3 other people that live in Mountain Time Zone.
We're very happy. Confusing the rest of the world.
Yeah, what time is it there? I'm pretty sure time exists when you get there in between the mountain ranges.
It's 8:21 right now.
Oh, that's right. It's even more confusing if you're in Arizona.
Oh, we're pushing for Florida. I don't think change. Too humid.
The part I actually agreed with. There was an essay I wrote once that said we should just abolish time zones. Just like, I say I'm calling you at 3 p.m. It's 3 p.m. all over the world, and you just get up at like 2 a.m. or go to bed at 2
time.
This is probably a thing for pilots, right, David?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's literally Zulu time or GMT or UTC.
The fun part I used to tell my students is there was a country that actually experimented with metric time. Like literally it was like 100 minutes in an hour, like so many 10 hours in a day. And literally after just a few weeks, the population of the country was basically like, if you don't change it back, we rebel. Like we will literally kill everyone in the government if you do not stop this.
I don't know what time it is ever.
It's exactly right. They were gathering torches and pitchforks, and the government's like, "Okay, our bad.
This must be hell, for there is no time." Oh goodness. Well, guys, let's get this up and off the road with our actual programming for the night. This is people come here for one reason, and that is to talk about. To talk about the different brands of adult diapers that they sell. This is the Adult Diaper Podcast. Actually, TC just got his latest review copy. We got the new one out. It is called the Cadillac of Depends. TC is going to be telling us all about his experience testing this old puppy. Giving
Ultra
her
strength.
It was sturdy and nice. It was very absorbent. Very absorbent.
You know, for astronauts, they call it the maximum absorbency garment.
That's right. Yep. It's not a diaper.
Well, you know, when you're 8 hours on a spacewalk, you can't come in to pee.
Nope. And I feel like it would just kind of float there with you. You know?
You know, Alan Shepard literally peed his pants before launch.
Really?
They kept him 8 hours in the cockpit and wouldn't let him out.
Yeah.
So he had to turn off all the electronics, pee, let it dry out, and turn everything back on again.
Oh,
it's going to be such a nightmare to get him in and out. Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's good times.
3, 2, 1. Hello and welcome to The Good, the Bored, and the Ugly, a podcast about board games. I'm the host of The Good, the Bored, and the Ugly, Joe Sallin, being joined tonight by Andy Dennison. How's it going, Andy?
Pretty good.
TC Reed. TC, out there on the West Coast. How are you doing?
Being diligent, doing my homework, researching a game for our topic. Doing very good. And as I said before, I've discovered I prefer playing brass than teaching it. That's gonna be my new motto at the end of my name now.
TC, who prefers brass but does not like teaching it.
Yes, there you go.
Well, I think somebody who does enjoy teaching brass, or at least has done so at least a time or two, especially with the new Brass Birmingham, is a special guest tonight, joining us from a new location. Used to be a Central Iowa board gamer, as this podcast has its roots in, and is now out in Salt Lake City area in Utah. That is David Sandquist joining
Mountain Time board gamer, apparently.
Yeah.
What?
Mountain
Time board gamer.
Oh, the old Mountain Man board gamer.
Mountain Man.
You got our Mountain Man. Mountain Man, David. So, David, have you had any recent experiences with the brass, the wave of brass, the where there's muck, there's brass?
I've only played it a couple times with the wife as a 2-player, and teaching it went fine, so I'll teach it.
Well, that is also the new Brass Birmingham. TC, are you talking about that one or the oldie but goodie Lancashire?
The oldie but goodie. The new version of the oldie but goodie.
Sure, which looks very pretty.
It's very pretty, yes.
I agree with TC, having experienced a little bit of teaching the game of brass as it was before the old Eagle Griffin edition, and it was, I mean, really the game looks different, but the function of the pieces is not very much. I don't think there's really any structural changes to the game, and it was a tough one to teach. I mean, it's one of those where you don't really feel like you know what you're doing until you're a good third of the way through the game, and then you're like, oh, well, then this action that I want to take, I can't do it like that, or when I did that, I had to have that card, and I didn't. So I guess I cheated.
Can't build 2 industries in the same spot.
Or I have to play a card for every action, and then the card count gets off. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's a great game, but wow, you gotta play it a few times, and there's nothing quite like going, okay, I'm doing good. You didn't tell me the canals were going away. Y'all have money because you took loans. You're building tracks. I'm done.
I guess for the next 6 actions, I will pass. That would be rough. So anyway, we've got the 4 of us here tonight to talk to you about board gaming apps. So specifically focused TC on this topic from the last several hours. I think he's been getting some firsthand experience.
Board game apps, just online board games in general, just so I'm clear. I was just assuming it was any kind of online aspect. Online
implementations of board games. We can clarify it right now and say it's open to web apps, is it phone apps? Not going to limit it by platform here. Any way that you can digitally play a board game, digital board games.
Except Google Play, because
what's that?
No Android phones. No, I don't care. It's fine. All right, go ahead.
Well, first, before we move on, thanks to our sponsor, Game Surplus. You can check them out at GameSurplus.com, where they are bringing the world of board games to you. Check out their podcast pick sections. Enter the code Good Board Ugly Picks. We're adding new games to there. You should expect to see a few new pop up before all too long, because it's always just a matter of time before I go through the list and find which ones I'd like to give our community a discount on. So check them out. Get those games shipped to you, and also. They are supporting this community by giving us games to give to you. So listen in. You should have just heard the results to our podcast contest announced before this episode, and you should hopefully get a chance then to participate when we run the next one from Carmen at Game Surplus. It's a really, really upstanding place. Also, shout out to our cardboard cohort, which is the Bridge City Board Gamers, and they are a part of this podcasting, this board game media family. So thanks very much to Norm and Ryan for the awesome content that they produce, and best of luck as they get back to starting the next school year and just tackling the challenges that are in front of them. So good luck with all of that. A couple of teachers that also play board games. So actually, teachers that play board games are the best. The only thing that's bad, Andy, can we just say this? You're a fallen angel now. You are a former teacher, a fallen teacher.
Well, dude, yeah. But
don't even try to deny it. Just, yeah.
There's extremely important reasons why, and
he's more of a pit stop teacher. If you really listen to him, he's more of a pit stop teacher who's just taking a whole long time to unscrew the tires and put them back on.
Well, after last year, it was bad. Okay, moving on.
No, you got to be in the right place, and sometimes it just isn't the right. Even if it's the right profession, it isn't the right place to be working. So good luck to all the people that were running that school that you were at into the ground, and hopefully they have found the way back up towards the surface.
I don't know. They're probably doomed. I just like to think once I'm gone from an area, it just all descends into post-apocalyptic hellscapes.
Wow, that means if you ever come visit me and play a game, you expect Portland to burn to the ground?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yes, he's like Godzilla. He's got the Godzilla trails behind him, the Back to the Future.
I told my students, I just to assume that when I die, the entire universe is going to wink out of existence. Best thing, nobody proves me wrong.
He's the is it Thanos, right? Thanos, he's gonna snap his fingers. Here we go. That's it. You're gone. Well, the half of you that still is left, first of all, you are the original Good Board Ugly fans. Thank you very much for your support from the absolute beginning. Maybe somebody gets that. Maybe not. ... Hopefully, anybody who calls that a spoiler has already seen it, so you can't spoil it. Anyway, but maybe me saying that makes it more of a spoiler. Anyway, ... The first review we're going to have coming at you is from David, who has got a chance to play a game with one of its developers.
Yep. As kind of a small update, I got to go to the Northern Utah Gamer Guild, and that was really interesting. A lot of people, very friendly. It was easy just to sit down and play a game. And then I found another group to play with out here, just via Reddit, the board gaming subreddit. And somebody said, hey, Salt Lake City, anybody want to play heavier games? So I responded to it and met up with them at a board game cafe, which was the first one of those that I've gotten to go to as well. Watchtower Cafe, I think is what it was called, down in Salt Lake City. And I met them, and he had import-export out there, and it took me a little bit to realize, oh, he's saying my game as in I developed it or designed it.
Is it Jordan Draper? Was he there?
Nick Halder.
Oh, okay. I was like, I thought that dude was living in Japan now or something.
That might be, but yeah, Nick Halder is who I met and played this with, and it was really interesting playing a game with somebody who's had so much care and attention to it. You get that at like Gen Con, but I've never been to Gen Con, unfortunately. But import-export, it was difficult at first. It's just like any Carl Chudak type game where their cards have many different things that you can do with them. There are several different types of cards, though, and then the different actions that you can take are based off of the colors of the card, essentially. And so you can start a contract, but to start a contract, you first have to have the correct color of card, which I believe was yellow. I could get that wrong, so I'm just going to go through without saying the colors. And then if you wanted to start another one of that same color, whatever contract was, you have to have another yellow card. So you'd have to have 2 yellow cards to start a yellow contract. But then there's a bunch of other ones too that you could start. There's green, blue, black, red, and I might be missing one other than the yellow that I already got to. But those are also your different actions. So if you start something, then you're giving away an action by saying, hey, I'm going to now take these cards and load them onto my ship. So it's really interesting trying to balance how you want to load your ship based off of what actions you can actually take via the cards that you have in your hand. If you don't have the card that you want, you could always play 2 cards of the same color to just say, hey, this is that action. And then I haven't played Glory to Rome. He kept comparing it to that, but very kind of imminent domain style. Everybody follows on an action. If they have that same card, they can do the action as well. And if you decide not to, then you can draw a card or draw up to 5, rather, up to the hand size. Overall, it was really interesting, very difficult to grasp what the actual strategy was to win. And I was going more off of the pirating to get containers that were already out on the island or out to sea into my own ships, and then importing the ones that I actually wanted on because it had the spots for kind of like innovation left side, right side for scoring that you tuck the cards underneath. For your imports, where you actually can get some scored cards on there based off of how many of the different colors you have. I didn't realize the game was going to end so quickly because I was going for red, and apparently if you have most red, you get -6 points. So I did terrible.
Wow.
But I still really enjoyed it. I definitely want to try it again, especially now understanding better how the cards work and how to time when the game is actually going to end. So when somebody gets to $40, essentially, or 40 credits, the game ends. Yeah. So you got to be paying attention to how much money people have, and you got to pay attention. If you're going to get to 40 credits, you might want to spend that money somewhere else if you're not going to win.
Mm-hmm. If I remember right, I think Trent said something about like they posted like things you should consider and do for like new players, so that they're not just like, here's all the rules, here's the cards, and then they're like.
That might have been the case. He introduced a lot of the basics, mm-hmm. and then kind of wanted us to just start around, but then we kept asking questions. That didn't really work, so he ended up just explaining everything anyway, which was fine, and we caught on, especially after one round going around, because technically one round going around is a lot of actions with people following, then you've already done a bunch of these things, even just in that one round, to where you've basically learned the game from there. I can kind of, I think I was hearing when I saw this on Kickstarter, some comparisons to Container.
Yeah.
And I guess the only really comparison towards Container is that there is some relation of getting people to do what you want them to do, but that's really kind of where the line is drawn. Otherwise, I mean, there's an island, there's containers, there's ships. That's really about it. It's more of a Chinook style game.
A lot closer to Glory to Rome than Container.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Well, that sounds really cool. I'd like to get this one tried. I think some of the comments, to sum up, it sounds like the mixture there is making you build the right combo, as opposed to Glory to Rome is kind of like finding a certain combo, hoping for it to hoping to hit a certain combo cards. And this one, it sounds like there's more that you do and sort of putting it together and constantly cycling lots of cards.
Oh yeah, you're in a lot more control. It's actually not a bad thing to use 2 cards of one color, just so you can get rid of them, so you can draw back up to your hand size and get cards that you want. So cycling through your cards, getting rid of your cards, and then when you complete contracts, they have special powers that you have to keep track of as well, and keep track of what other people's special powers was. One of mine was whenever somebody drew a card or cards, I could discard a card. So I was constantly cycling my hand, which helped me get the cards that I needed, but not the strategy, apparently.
All right. Well, cool. That was import-export, and it sounds like you got a chance to play with somebody who is really instrumental in making that game a reality. So I need to get this one played. This is one I still haven't tried. I know that it was played at game nights before. The player count, it sounds like it is a very good 2-player game, kind of, like your Glory to Rome style, the Carl Chuduk games.
I thought it was fine. At 4, it went about an hour and a half, I'd say.
That's longer than I thought it was going to be, I guess.
Well, it was, I'm including like rule explanation and all of that.
Which was really a lot of it. So it sounds like. Cool. All right. Well, thanks, David. That was import-export. And now let's hear from Andy with another sort of update with a scenario in the old Conflict of Heroes saga.
Yeah. So I'm going to kind of continue this as a continuation of reviews, just because I think it's kind of neat. So anyway, Trent and I have been continuing kind of our 2-player once a week meets, and so we've been continuing with Conflict of Heroes Guadalcanal. So we did Firefight 2 there on Tuesday, and Firefight 2 introduces a lot of additional mechanisms and really kind of ups the complexity. So in Firefight 2, they introduce cards. So you get a card each round, which is going to be either an action you can take or modify an action, increase it, that kind of thing. Also, they add in the ability of group actions. So you could take 2 of your units and move together or shoot together. But the trick is when you are using when you're using them as group actions, then they're pulling from the same action pool. So let's say if I had 2 units and I activated them separately, they would each get 7 action points. However, if I activate them as a group, they both are using the same 7 points of action. So you're going through your units a lot faster. But there might be strategic reasons why you would want to do that. So for example, I was playing the Japanese again. We decided to keep playing the same armies. I activated 2 units together so that I could move both up into these buildings, which would provide more cover, because I knew Trent would be bringing out troops along this certain area of the board. So that allowed me to do that. So you got these group actions abilities, you got card abilities that you could use. And then the really interesting mechanism was they added in a mechanism to try to incentivize people to make historically appropriate, but not necessarily what one would consider the strategic best move. So, for example, if we look at history, the Japanese would often do what was called the bonsai charges, where they would basically, the officer would draw a sword and then just a whole group would charge like across open ground at a machine gun nest or something. Now, if you're playing a tactical war game, that seems like a really bad idea. But they want to make it historic. So what they do for the Japanese is you get these things called Bushido points. And in the game, you got these command points that you get a pool of each round. And the command points allow you flexibility. So it allows you to do extra things with units or maybe activate a unit that's already been activated, that kind of thing. Well, with the Bushido points in the Japanese, they can add to or remove your command points. So, for example, Trent was playing in the United States. He got 9 command points at the beginning of every round. I, as the Japanese player, got 4, plus or minus the number of Bushido points I had. And so I was incentivized to do these kind of suicidal charges at his units to get killed in close combat. Because that's what it actually said. I didn't get Bushido points unless my unit died in close combat.
Jeez.
And also I got a benefit if I had positive Bushido points. So it incentivized me to do these, suicidal attacks that were often a part of the Japanese strategy in their military. And this scenario was much more interesting. We both kind of knew more what we were doing. We were both taking advantage of the mechanics a lot better. There was a whole lot more back and forth. And Trent ultimately won this one. This one was slightly more weighted to the United States as far as who was most likely to win. And so what he ended up winning, but it was pretty close. Like up until about the last round, I would have had a chance, not a great chance, but I had a chance. And then a couple things happened. I'm like, hey, let's just play it out. But we know I've lost. And it's neat how they use victory points to incentivize you to do various things to make you play more historically and not just what's the optimal strategy. So in this scenario, I was holding defensively a village, and the goal of the Americas was to chase me out of that village. So Trent would get more victory points if he could just get any unit on that village. So he had to keep pushing towards it, not just slowly sit out there and pick off my units one by one. And then I would get essentially lose victory points or Bushido points if any units got on there. So they use a system of victory points and these Bushido points to incentivize you to take actions that would have been realistic, historically speaking, which is kind of cool. And often what I found through that is you look then at the aftermath report, like what actually happened. And it ends up being pretty close to that. Like just by incentivizing you through the game mechanics to try to do certain things. It was a much more interesting scenario than the first one where I felt like I had the dumbest Japanese officers in a military. But that was my poor play. It was just like, Trent ganked one of my units and it was gone. I'm like, oh God, how am I going to stop him? And I just pictured this, Japanese commander going, oh, how do we stop them? And this young lieutenant coming up and go, hey, Takeda's over there in a machine gun nest. He's been pointing at him the whole time, waiting for you to say something. Oh, okay. Then, and then it was, I basically wiped Trent off the map in no time. But in this one, the way this one worked, it was really interesting. It was much more back and forth. There was a lot more kind of, you never knew quite how to view something like, what card are they holding? What could that do to me? It even though there was a lot of dice rolling, it didn't feel super swingy, mostly because I rolled ungodly awful for the first round and a half where I couldn't hit anything. And then Trent did that the last round and a half. So it evened out pretty good. So we're both really excited by this. We're really interested to keep playing. Kind of looking ahead, the next one we're playing is going to introduce vehicle movement. And then I think one or two after that, I was looking at it briefly as we were talking about how the game went. And I was like, wait, and Firefight 5, I don't have any units on the map. Oh, they're all hidden. You have to actually find them. So, I don't know. It's a really interesting system, and I'm really finding it fascinating how they use this system of points to incentivize you to do historic actions. Because a lot of times we don't read the aftermath until after we're done, and we're like, oh, that's cool how they made me do that. But it still feels like you're making your own choices. So anyway, Conflict of Heroes, Guadalcanal, still going over pretty well. Looking forward to more plays.
Cool, dude. And that is from Academy Games. It's kind of like a ASL, your Hex Encounter, your War Game, but in a much more digestible format, right?
Yeah, I think the last 2 scenarios have taken less than 2 hours. There's a couple big ones in there. I think they could take maybe up to 3, but that's about it. They try to make it a much more like intro style to sort of that squad level Hex Encounter War Game kind of thing.
Cool. All right. Well, that is Conflict of Heroes, Guadalcanal, the next installment from Andy. And now I'm going to take the mic here for a moment, seeing that TC is going to certainly segue us into our topic. Well done there, TC.
I try.
I'm going to be talking today about a game that I'm talking about it right now on the podcast, and I don't want this to be the last time that I come to talk about this game. I mean, I tend to be a review a game, then usually move on. I rarely revisit my reviews, at least in the podcast format, unless I have a reason, like unless they have very much changed. And so at this point, I just feel like I'm giving an early review of what I feel like is going to be my thoughts towards the game. I've only played this game 4 times, and it is a game that I feel like will hold up up to many, 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 many more plays after that. And it is because of how concise it is, how well it just like starts you right in the thick of the action. Feels like you're already just trying to scrap to get anything, and that the whole time you're not sure if you can count on the people around you to be on your side or to actually be against you. And I'm talking about a new game from Mo Ideas, who brought you Mini Rails, who brought you the fantastic Tulip Bubble, which I reviewed on a previous podcast. I'm talking tonight about Liberatores. Liberatores, think like liberator with an ES at the end. And it is about the quest to assassinate Caesar. The players will play as Republicans that are chiefly loyal to the cause of a democracy in Rome and do not enjoy the dictatorial powers that Caesar has. And so you are going to,
so the opposite of the modern political parties.
Yes. I suppose, Andy, I don't even know, man. I don't know where to go with that. The big thing is you are either playing as Republicans who are wanting to win as a team. And that is usually the largest amount of players in this game is on the Republican team. Then there will be any number of competitors that actually will play to try to win for themselves while still wanting to see Caesar assassinated in the end. But then finally, if you have at least 4 players, which I would certainly recommend that you play this game with no less than 4 players, though I do think it still would work, and I'll tell you why. But the 4-player game has an agent that is playing on Caesar's side and wins when Caesar wins. This is your traitor in the midst. So mixing together a hidden traitor game with the flow of history / through the ages style card drafting row, where you're as much focused on the cool ability of the card that you're taking from the card drafting row as you are worried about the cool ability that your opponent might get, or the amount of influence that this card will end up giving to Caesar if that card ends up getting thrown to Caesar for money. There is only one way to gather money in this game, to take income as an action. If you have no money, you are forced to take an action that gets you income, and that also involves sending a card to Caesar, sending somebody to influence Caesar. And at the end of the game, all of those points that are cards that were sent to Caesar will get matched up with the cards that were sent on the opposite side, to the exorbitantly expensive bribery side, and you'll see whether or not Caesar actually gets assassinated. This is, of course, after you've seen the likely suspects of Brutus, Mark Antony, as well as Cassius, and a host of other sort of Roman dignitaries, Roman civilians that are passing through this drafting line, giving you special abilities that range from being assassins to spies And it is just a fantastic assortment of different abilities. But here's what's more than anything else. This game is just like absolutely starting you right with, like, it feels like with a few bad moves, the entire party, the entire game slips into Caesar's hands. And it is just so dire right from the start that you have to be like working together. And if you ever think you know who the traitor is, the game has a couple of cards that you can automatically pay $2 on your turn to give to other players that are going to if they are Caesar's agent, rob them of influence at the end of the game and cause the other players to win. So I mean, it's one of those things where, like, mathematically, because there's so many players working on Caesar's side and this very strong tool that only they have if they suspect who the traitor is, then that traitor has to be quiet. But ultimately, the game is the biggest ally that this traitor has. The game is working against you. It's tough to win this game. Think about it like this. Battlestar Galactica is a game that, how many, TC, from what I understand, you enjoy the game, and it is a long game that what percentage would you say is actually won by the players and not the Cylon?
Well, that really depends on how many expansions you throw in the thing.
All right,
how
base
familiar
game.
you are, and how familiar people are with the game. Because when we first started playing it, like the Cylons won a lot, and it didn't take a lot of effort for the Cylons to win. But once we started playing it more, it started getting a little bit more balanced. But yeah, when you first play Battlestar, it feels like it's completely unbalanced towards the players. And if you're the Cylon, all you have to do is sit back and watch the chaos.
And Battlestar Galactica is one of those games where you are going to be playing one game, and like that's the only game you play all night. So the only way that you're going to get good at that game is if you play that multiple times with the same group. Otherwise, you're always going to have some sort of a new player that either doesn't understand the game and doesn't know how to like really be efficient and not do the stupid stuff that, you know, like grab the go for the carrots dangling in front of your face by the game. In this game, Liberatores takes like, I mean, you can lose this game in like 10, 15 minutes. I've seen like a game of this go as quick as 10 minutes, and you almost always, at least in my experience, I've never played this game once. It's always been like play it once and then get it going again. You know, it's one of those play again games. The like, oh, now that we know how that works and we know how we have to work together, let's try this differently. And this is because all these cool abilities on these cards are cheap. They're cheap. But the influence that card is worth if you send it to your cause, to the Republican cause, is expensive. And you're not getting anything cool for yourself. You're sacrificing for the group. But the whole point of the game is like, you can't let this get too bad. I would maybe be worried about a game having this much of a balanced on a knife edge element. Andy, you said that before. I know that you've said that usually in a positive way, balanced on a knife edge. And this game is absolutely that. It is such a quick, and once the game does start to tip, it's over. So that balanced on a knife edge aspect is something I really love. It's like, it feels like it's intense. Like I have to care from the first moment. And it to me, like, I didn't hear how excited I am about it, but I'm only 4 plays in. I wish that I could say that with more confidence behind it. I am so looking forward to my future plays of this, and I don't imagine that changing, but I feel like I really need to see how it changes because, TC, I think that what you said about the experience being, like, very different if you actually know how to run the game and don't just, like if somebody goes to buy a cool ability, I'm like, okay, what you just did there, that was really selfish. Come on, man. Really, we needed that. We needed that. You set it up for that. What do you guys think? I think he's the agent. I think he's the agent. I think he's on Caesar's side. There's no way you do that.
We know I'm not because I can't lie effectively.
Oh, you don't even have to, though, in this one, man. It's just so different. It's just so, like, the game is totally against you from the beginning, and it's just like you just have to kind of just play the game. It's really interesting like that. I don't want to say that it is just you playing the game, but the players need to understand, like, you need to use your numbers advantage to make sure that the central focus of the game for all players is sending cards to the bribery side, sending cards to the Republican side, to the assassination side. Because every time that you take an ability and put it in front of yourself, you've deprived that from, you know, the other side. And, you know, like, especially if you're like, dude, you just set it up so that he has to take that card and give him to Caesar to get money. And that card is a lot of influence. Why would you let that happen? So anyway, it's a very cool system where players are like, you know, managing this cascading card row of like Oh no, don't let that much influence get to Caesar. Save it, save it, save it. Somebody save it. Oh, you didn't save it. You're the agent. You're the agent. And then you later on find out, no, he's not the agent. He was just a Republican who was really careful not to let a competitor win. You know, the one game I played was when the competitors played the most cooperatively, and the competitors lost and the Republicans won. It was a fascinating experience. I played with 4, I played with 5, I think, and I played with 6. And it was great at those player counts. The 3-player game's a little different. It's more of just a cooperative game where the players are trying to make sure the competitor doesn't win over the 2 Republicans. But it just seems to me to be strange at that lower player count. But I really liked this one. It seemed like it is that hidden traitor game for heavy gamers.
As soon as you said social deduction that was heavy mixed with flow of history, my finger went to the buy button.
Well,
the work here is done.
We first have to rate this any game about Rome. The quality of the game is determined, obviously, by how many times do you have to say Have Caesar during the game. So, Joe, comments.
It's 0, which is the right amount to get a perfect 10.
Perfect 10? I don't know.
Is that
when I play Time of Crisis, if I become emperor, I make people call me emperor.
Okay, Andy, in this game, that would be the post game afterwards if you were the competitor and you won. Any other case, you're not going to be the emperor till the end. So if you insist on people calling you emperor throughout the game, you're really jumping the gun on that one.
Well, so did a lot of Romans. It didn't end well for them either.
I declare myself emperor.
Yeah, there was many times where the armies were like, "We declare you emperor." No, that's okay. No. We don't want to do that.
No, and then the Time of Crisis pretender empire forms.
Yeah.
And starts draining points from the actual empire until it is promptly put out.
No, the best one in Rome was when the emperor got sick. And then before, the mail could get to Rome, the rumors about him dying did. So his wife went to the governor of Egypt. And it's like, you should be emperor. Declare yourself emperor. Then we can get married and you'll really be emperor. And then he's like, okay, I'll do it. And he did it. And then they're like, oh, crap, he's still alive.
Yeah.
Bro.
So lots of stories. I would say that's kind of similar to the structure of our local game group. The rise and fall of the Roman Empire, the same as the rise and fall of our local game group, which has ostracized one of its members out to Utah. Good riddance.
Good riddance.
Yeah, if he's closer to you now, TC. He's your problem.
Oh, is he?
Slowly making my way over there.
My proximity. Okay. You hear that? You're my problem. Awesome. I'll just add you to the list.
Well, that's what we got for Liberatores. So now we get to hear from TC, who has been patiently waiting. But I'm sure, TC, you wanted to just blast this new experience to the world right away. So thank you for your patience.
Absolutely. Since we announced our topic, which would be digital apps and board gaming, I was like, I don't play a whole lot of those. I'm like, I probably should at least get something and try something and get it going, because I think I've maybe played 3 or 4 digital implementation of board games ever. Oh. So I'm looking around at stuff, and we have our little Twitter chat going. I'm like, oh, look at this. The Lord of the Rings living card game just entered early access on Steam. Have you guys heard about this? Click. And Trent goes, yes. Avoid or something to that extent. Like, oh, that's weird. So then I text a friend of mine who's super into the Lord of the Rings living card game, has everything made for it. I go, hey, this came out. Have you heard about it? He's like, yeah, I played it. It's not even the same game. So I'm like, of course, I'm like a rubbernecker. I'm like, oh my God, I've got to try this thing. I've got to get on this thing and see what's going on. I got to give every
trade.
Everybody's like red flags. TC loves red flags.
So I go online and I look at it, and it entered early access. It looks like, I think it was August 28th, which is 2 days ago on the Thursday, maybe Wednesday, Thursday. And I went immediately. I got a bunch of windows open here, so you'll have to suffer with me here. So I went to the user reviews, and right now there has been 155 reviews on Steam, and it's at mixed, which means 55 of the 155 user reviews for this game are positive, which means a lot of them are thumbs down, not recommended.
To be fair, the 55 that are positive never actually played the original Lord of the Rings: The Living Cards game.
So I'm like, okay, I'm like, okay, what's it gonna take for me to get into this early access? Because I am like super intrigued by this thing right now. I'm just like, I've got to get on this thing. I got to do a session report. I got to do my due diligence for my buddies here, and so I looked at the payment. So to get in, it's an early access, right? There are several tiers to get in. It was like the base was $7.99 for a Shire Founders pack, and it goes, there's like a $15.99, a $29.99, and then a $47.99, which is everything. I'm like, well,
That's
I'm
when
sorry.
You buy your 4 core sets, right?
So I'm like, okay, guys, I could throw $8 at this thing. Okay, I'm not gonna do $47.99. I'm gonna throw $8 at this thing.
Yeah, you're just a scrub, man.
I've got to do this. I'm already committed. I'm in. I'm intrigued. So I throw with tax, since I'm in Washington, something like $8.22. I go talk to my wife. I said, Carissa, I just spent $8.22 on this thing, and she gives me this look. What'd you buy? I said, what's this game? That's got a 55% approval rating on Steam, and she rolls her eyes. She knows what's going on. Like, you want to see what's going on? So yes.
It's another one of those weird bad games that TC just loves, like the Deadly Premonition.
Yeah. So, but as an alternate, you can, right here, Muir just said, you can get the collector's edition of the Lord of the Rings card game for like $100, and you get like a free early access, which is like the $48 entry thing. But it comes with like player mats and stuff and blah, blah, blah. So anyway, so I'm like, okay, $8. I'm in this thing. Okay, so I download it, fire it up. And I'm telling you, it has the most amazing introduction I've seen. It's got like Galadriel talking from the movie. It's like, oh, it's got the ring and the free peoples of Middle Earth. I'm like, oh, this is fantastic. It's got great music. It's got great voice acting. So I fire it up and I play with the starter deck, and like all the characters are talking. They have unique voices. It's got this incredible soundtrack going on in the background. Like, wow, this is really cool. It's different from the living card game. Now, disclaimer, I've only played the card game, the physical card game, once or twice, just with the core set. And when we couldn't beat the base game, we kind of gave up on it. Right? Because I found out, like, to make an effective deck, you need 3 copies of Gandalf. Well, there's 1 copy of Gandalf in each core. So to get 3 copies of Gandalf, you got to buy 3 core sets. At that point, my wife gave me the big eye roll, and I knew we'd never touch it again. So that disclaimer, and then another disclaimer is I've heard this game's a lot like Hearthstone. I have not played Hearthstone, so I cannot comment on that. But the game itself is different. It's got a lot of similarities a little bit, where you have to go through an adventure, and it has different tiers for the quest, and then you finish the quest. Like, oh, okay, this is pretty cool. It's got some tactical. You can like choose the guy to attack. You can let him rest and shoot off and get this little meter going to do special attacks. The Sauron has this threat meter, which is kind of like the Doom meter in Arkham Horror, where if this thing ever tops out, you immediately lose. Found out the first time I played when I was dinking around too hard and lost. So I did it. I'm like, okay, beat it, put it on easy. I tried on medium, went, no way. I've got to figure this out. I put it on easy. I beat the first quest. Great. Got 275 Valor points. All right, let's see what's next. And this is where the game gets crazy. Okay, everything in this game you can get for free, but you have got to grind the heck out of everything to get Valor points. For example, I got 275 Valor points. To unlock the next quest is either $1.99 or it's like 2,745 Valor points. Right? I'm like, oh my goodness, that's a lot. And that's just the quest. To get more cards, depends on if it's what rarity is. A common is not too bad. It's like 170 Valor points. But you get a rare card, and you can put 2 in a deck, it looks like, because it's a 30-card deck you're building. It was like 1,500 Valor points for 2 rare cards.
Wow.
Holy crap. This is Warframe. If anybody has ever played Warframe on the PC, Xbox One, PlayStation 4, you know all about grinding. And you can get around grinding in Warframe, but you're paying money for platinum to get around that. As a disclaimer, if anybody is playing Warframe on the Xbox One, I have a clan I play with my son. You're more than welcome to join it. Just send me a message. We'll get you set up because my son loves building a dojo, and I am tired of grinding items for the dojo. Okay.
You made it sound like a scam, and now you're inviting people to join you.
By the way, join us.
Join us in the dark side.
So, by the way, have you heard of Magic the Gathering?
So this was like literally an hour ago. I'm like, oh my god, this is like one of the grindiest things I've ever seen. It's got solid gameplay, great music, great voice acting, but it's just the grindiest thing I've ever seen. And it doesn't even have a co-op play yet. So I'm like, I don't know if I can. So we got breaking news on this game. Ready? Okay, breaking news. They have decided as of 4:30 today, as at 4:23, that they're going to unlock the first campaign for free. They're just going to throw the whole thing open for free. People who have already invested money in this are going to get a refund for every quest that you purchased. You get 4,000 Valor points. They are going to be giving away, what does it say here? In addition, we'll have other freebies.
The reaction our nightmare.
Access members in coming weeks. So there's going to be free stuff. Now, in all seriousness, it's really impressive that Fantasy Flight. This is, from what I can tell, this is Fantasy Flight Interactive's first big foray into digital gaming. I mean, this is one of their first huge products. Looks like they are really seriously listening to player feedback. They are addressing the monetization, the economy of the game. So they're looking at it. And again, this is early access. So when you're buying into this, realize things are going to change. So it looks like they're on top of this and they're trying to get balance going and everything. I think there's a solid foundation here. I think once they implement co-op, it's going to be pretty good. They already have Twitch streams going on this thing, and this thing's set up so if you watch like Twitch streams, they can like give you like freebies and handouts and stuff. If they can get the player base for this, it might work. I think it's worth the $8 just to see what's going on in this thing. We'll see where it goes. I'll be giving periodic updates on this because I am really fascinated by this. I think there's something here. If they can
sounds like they made it like Arkham Horror, the card game. It's like they took Lord of the Rings and then kind of condensed it to Arkham Horror, the card game, mixed with a little bit of Hearthstone, and then sort of botched the release, just like anybody who's exploring.
Like any video game company like in existence now.
But what's really interesting, another thing to consider
boxes, that'll make it better.
Is that 4 or 5 years ago, when I first played Warframe on the PlayStation 4, I think it was, it really got the same reaction. Like the monetization was off, it was pay to win, all this stuff. And like 4 or 5 years later, Warframe has become like one of the top most played games on Steam consistently, because that developer listens to player feedback, they adjust, and they give players what they want. If Fantasy Flight Interactive can follow on that same model with this game, I think they may have something. But if they don't, they're going to have problems, because this is a license you don't want to screw up.
No.
So, I mean, this is what they are paying bank for, this license to implement this. So, right now, try it. They're making changes. Realize you're going into early access and things are going to change a lot. I think that's the biggest reason they went to early access, is so they could get player feedback. There will be probably some type of reward for being an early adopter. What that is yet, I don't know. I'll let you see. But right now, it's intriguing enough for me to stick with it for a bit. And Muir even said that once they implemented co-op, that we could play together. So I'm really looking forward to that. So right now, try it, realizing it's probably going to change a lot down the line.
I just love it. They give you a refund in like fake online currency. It ranks right up there with the time I was in a World of Warcraft guild, and our guild master, who was a woman, married to our tank, and I made some joke about, it was probably ranks right up there with when you got WoW Gold for your anniversary. Mm-hmm. And she's like, not really. And I'm like, oh my God, he did that?
Yeah, and even Muir said here, I'm just reading what he wrote. He said, like, the $40 entry level gives you a ton of Valor points. Yeah. Quest unlocks at 3,750. That's going to change, but that's what impacts that same amount. You can spend all your Valor points and get all this stuff unlocked. So if you pay the $48, you can get everything unlocked.
You have the full game that way.
Yeah. Which isn't too bad. I mean, and what's really funny, what I really wanted to mention right quick is that, so I was looking at this game through how it compares to the living card game, right? I was watching a few YouTube videos of them just approaching it as a video game without knowing the card game. And they've said, look, the amount of money they're asking for this is insignificant compared to what you would pay to play the physical version. And they listed all the stuff. And they're like,
Oh, God,
this is probably
the
the most
version's huge.
expensive card game ever made besides Magic. So charging this amount is actually not as bad as what they charge you for the physical copy, in addition to the price of storing it and setting it up. So it's kind of interesting to see that different viewpoint on it, you know? Yeah.
I have no idea how much content is being offered here, but I will say, man, I mean, I've invested probably a couple $100 at least, and that's, you know, a couple of cycles into the Lord of the Rings, the card game. So I mean, like, it's, you know, if it's coming out with a ton of content and they're charging a certain amount, but they've got some sort of a weird system of being able to unlock it for people who really just want to play the game. I mean, when you say grind, TC, what really worries me more than anything is, like, are you having to play the same scenario over and over and over and over and over with no real, like, progression feeling, except that you're earning enough?
The one thing you can do is you can, like, it's like you're playing the same scenario over and over, at least initially, but you can crank up the difficulty and, you know, hopefully get some more cards and then tweak your decks and play that same scenario. And the AI is going to it seems to be doing slightly different things when you play it. Like I said, I've only played it for a few hours, so I really haven't got in depth on how the AI works and how everything comes out. But, you know, yeah. So you at least got difficulty settings, right?
Yeah, well, that's cool, man. And great job coming up with that review so that we could segue you so smoothly. And I'm going to interrupt your segue, TC, because I realized I forgot to do something earlier. And that was to just ruin it all. I just wanted to ruin it all. All right. Well, actually, I have nothing to introduce. I just wanted to ruin it all for you, CC. So go ahead. No, the thing I really do have to say is I had my first session. With those that keep tabs on what I'm doing with the school's Gamers Club. As a high school teacher, I run a Gamers Club at the school, and we had our introductory meeting today where we're offering RPG D&D Adventurers League, which is easy for drop-in, drop-out to do sessions and stuff. So our one teacher is just running sessions weekly, like DMing for high school kids, which is a really cool thing that takes a lot of dedication and effort. We're offering a collectible card game meeting. That's infrequent, but we're also allowing kids to come to, like, the Gamers Club that I run and play their collectible card games there with each other. Kind of, you know, I just think, like, whenever you go to a game store, there's always people playing Magic at front, right? You know, no matter where you're at.
You're not high school kids. It's still Pokemon.
Nah, there's a Pokemon kid here and there, but they have Pokemon, they have Yu-Gi-Oh, and they have Magic too. Some of them play Magic.
Magic's still pretty good big at high schools and in middle school. Holy moly.
I mean, it's the original one, you know, and it is like, it's definitely, I think, still got the largest section of our kids. I'd say that the kids that play Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon have struggled to find partners to play with in our high school, at least. But I think that they could find some. But the main thing, like, just a couple of things, you know, to anybody who's looking to start a game group with younger kids, and I don't want to say younger kids, I just mean, like, kids. My kids are not younger kids, so I suppose, you know, like, this is, like, I don't have to worry about kids, you know, not having basic behaviors, basic hygiene for the most part. Once they get to high school, they got that stuff kind of sorted out for the most part.
So when do the Magic players lose it?
Okay, yeah, that's earned. All right, yeah. But not, I mean, the ones, of course, that come to my Gamers Club, though, I'm gonna teach them better, man. It's my job. I'm teaching them.
Has a list of policies on the board. Must have deodorant.
Yeah, but it has, like, it's under the Magic players rules. That's just
Magic players. Yeah.
So, what I had tonight was a kind of transformative experience that I wanted to mention. And it was my first experience ever gaming with somebody who was vision impaired, and I had a wonderful time making a game accessible. We played One Night Ultimate Werewolf, and I kind of helped with with looking at the card and stuff, and just kind of like brought him aside and told him what it was and told him what was going to go on. And you know, and fortunately, we ended up just drawing a regular villager card, so there was no like when the lights go off and the app tells you to move somebody's thing around, like we just got to sit there with our eyes closed the whole time, you know, like not actually like worried about it. It was really cool. Like there was theories that were being shot around. It was just a really fun time. Zombie Dice ended up being a cool game to play, very tactile. I'd say that, you know, your principally dice games are ones that can be very, you know, automatically can be friendly to vision impaired people. It was a very cool thing to learn. Yahtzee would be one that you can, you know, there's a lot that they can operate on their own and be able to touch, you know, this
company that does that now, that I think they make like things you can buy to turn games, and they're like for people with different disabilities, where they can make a regular game, you know, like Terra Mystica, and then they'll make Braille overlays and things like that or something.
I think that was
a
like that. Kickstarter for a time, or some sort of a project that was being run, and I think it could have been turned into an actual company. I'm not. I didn't have an experience with that specifically. As a matter of fact, I didn't know for sure that this individual was going to be attending until kind of, you know, like the last minute. But it ended up being a very wonderful time, and just something I'm really looking forward to. The biggest, coolest thing about it is to think of how robust of an experience in that role-playing environment that D&D Adventurers League is going to give this person, you know, just to think of how wonderful that's going to be and how cool that is to be offered. I just wanted to share that. And what really warmed my heart was to see how the kids that I've played games with in the past really are taking like sort of a leadership role where they're running games. And, you know, they're coming and they're telling people that to come with them. They're telling people about the Gamers Club. It's a very inspiring thing to see how they interact with people, you know, understanding that they're interacting with a lot of each other for the first time and in a very new environment. They might know each other outside of Gamers Club, but like seeing each other in Gamers Club is a different experience. And I think that, like, you know, in terms of building a culture, it's been just awesome to see it start. One of the first things that I did say though was, you know, it's good. Like a teacher always has like a couple of horror stories that you tell your kids, and what it really does is just kind of jolt them into, and so jolt them into like conscious, you know, being conscious of their behavior. You're like, oh, you wouldn't, you know, I'm going to tell you a story about somebody who, if they were thinking, would never have done this. So here's the story. You know, I'm playing a game of Resistance Avalon, and I look over, and I see this student who's got a cardboard voting token. And it's out of the side of their mouth, and they're chewing. And I looked.
What token was it?
It was a voting token. So like a voting token that's like the one you put out that's either a yes or a no. You know, so there's one essentially lighter and one darker token for yes and for no. And so this would basically made every vote, if they put their token out there, you could tell which one it was because it had bytes in it. So TC, though, I'd like to say this, that you are talking from what sounds like a father perspective, where it's like, all right, I've seen kids eat pieces. Tell me which piece it was. If it's really that necessary, we can find a replace.
To collect stuff until the piece worked through.
Like you just find something half chewed. It's like, this happens. It's the way that human beings develop. But this is like 14-year-olds that I'm talking about. 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18-year-olds. It's definitely a weird experience to see somebody chewing on a cardboard token and just be like, dude, what are you doing?
I don't know. I hear my wife talk about college students and complains, and I just like go, yeah, I think it's how it works. And she's like, but you teach middle schoolers, I teach adults. And I'm like, and it's cute. You think that makes a difference?
Yeah, well, I think that there are certain things that kids are more careful about, and they get into sort of a like carelessness about them at certain points. And I do think that carelessness is something that is most prominent in you know, the teenager, preteen years. So
you know who's the worst at any of this is teachers. No, like literally, like I had to go to a meeting. Because my wife and I are trying to get into this like cool like nutrition study thing, so we had to go to an orientation meeting tonight, and like the professor that was orienteering us like started up and like a PowerPoint came on the screen, I immediately just looked down at my cell phone.
Yes, that's making yourself sound like you're just addicted to your device, which I'm pretty sure that's just part of the human condition now. Like that's a evolutionary step, right? That like
the last time I was in a teacher like meeting and we, I couldn't sneak it. I just replayed Star Wars in my head.
Well, it was a good time at Gamers Club. It was excellent to see some familiar faces that I was really looking forward to playing again in this coming year, and looking towards growing the group, towards including new people, and getting just in general like sharing it with the next generation that I'm teaching as well. It went really, really well. And speaking of being addicted to devices, drum roll, Andy, you wanted to talk about this. So what spurred that? I just imagine Andy sitting there and playing the living heck out of an app, and then he's like, I want to talk about apps.
I just saw it in our guild. No,
sweet. All right.
No, but honestly, to be fair, like, because I do have children, wife, craziness in my life. Like, I do play a fair amount of my gaming online. I meet about once a week to play across the board with people, but I play predominantly online as far as like 18xx games go and whatnot, because they take so long that, just being able to meet up for 12 hours is difficult for me to find that time. So I do play those online. There's really been a lot of games coming out with good apps. Like GMT just announced how much like big hits of their catalog are getting online implementations. So I think this sort of game to app thing is really starting to take off. And you're not just seeing like, like the most popular titles getting apps now. I mean, all the coin games are getting apps. Like I never would have predicted that,
Wow. It seems cool. I would definitely play coin games as long as it works on my device. And I tend to just play on either my phone or like an open browser. So like actual installed apps are ones that I only really use in a very limited setting. But so do you think, Andy, that like what's the ideal device? Maybe we could start there with, when it comes to like board game implementations, what do you guys believe is the ideal device or the ideal? What are you looking for when you're looking for online implementations of board game apps? Board games, I should say.
For me, if it's not like a pretty basic game, I don't think the phone is usually the best way to go. Mm-hmm. I remember when they, what was it, Star Realms came out, and I tried to play that on my phone at the time, and I literally had to like maximize every individual card every time because it was so freaking small you couldn't read anything at a distance. Like that just didn't.
I'm surprised that you even tried that game, dude. Like, why did you?
That was years
wanting
ago.
Something to curse at?
That was years ago before I learned better. But
it's weird to think of how long Star Realms has actually been out, especially in relation to the age of this podcast.
Oh yeah, no, for sure, it's been out for a while. And then I know, for example, though the 18xx games I play, because we use a combination of like spreadsheet, a website, and Slack, and I can do it on my iPad, but it definitely slows things down from a computer. And doing it on my phone, if I'm desperate to make my moves because I'm holding everybody up, I might do it on my phone. That tends to be a little trickier. So I think generally speaking here, bigger screens is better. And I don't know, a lot of it is still you have to kind of be connected to the internet unless it's kind of an app. I mean, if you're playing on any board gaming website or something, you're still usually tied to kind of a desktop computer on the internet or a laptop or something.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I think I've already kind of answered. For me specifically, I just play web browser, so something I could play in a web browser on any, generally a screen. I'd say a PC, a laptop, anything where it's going to have a screen large enough, and a mouse or some sort of a trackpad or something, where you can easily get, the window, but it doesn't, require you to actually be running a program. that's like side to, you know, I just like having it in a separate tab. You know, there's just like a certain convenience to that. And then even then, I love when I get a notification. Sometimes it's frustrating because it'll like, I'll be like working in one tab and it'll like slap me over to this other tab and says, you have a turn to make on another. It's like, no, I was working. I was in the middle of a sentence. That is so rude. Don't ever do that to me again. But I do like the fact that it lets me know, especially when I'm like falling into a bit of an idle stare, when I get all of my turns taken in an online game system. And then I'm like, you know, in that weird sort of, well, I didn't really plan how long I was going to be here, but now that it's over, I'm not comfortable yet ending it, but I've taken all of my turns. So I guess I'll just kind of watch TV and really just kind of wait for my turn to come up again.
Well, and the one thing I think that's critical, and I've really, really come to believe this, is if you're going to make an online implementation of a game, there needs to be a undo or like redo your turn kind of button.
Very good point.
Because otherwise the interface can get in the way of your enjoyment. And
oh, yeah.
Like, I think the most guilty one for the ones I play is playing Madeira on Board Game Arena. It's so frustrating because I've lost at least 5 games of that just because of the oddball interface that's used and then no undo button to allow me to go back and fix.
Yep, and this is, Andy, this is why I play generally on Yucata. That's yucata.de. It might look like it's, you know, like the games look like the games themselves. They look like just very two-dimensional. And I feel comfortable with that. I like the way that once you learn where things are at, there's very little overhead. There's very little, like, my laptop doesn't start, like, you know, the fan doesn't turn on because it's not trying to chug a bunch of 3D graphics. And it's also not constantly connecting with the system. It's where if you press a certain button, it will send a message. It's not constantly needing to hear the message. It's more like message gets sent, game system reacts. And that way it's not quite as taxing on your system overall. I might be not understanding how the system actually works, but like Board Game Arena to me just seems like it's always running. It's always on. It's like that sort of countdown clock type system. And BoardGameArena.com is one of the available board gaming browsers out there. And I've kind of like played a lot of games on it. I'll still keep playing games on it. I tend to prefer turn-based games just in general so that we can keep a game going over time. But I really like Board Game Arena is about the only option you've got if you want to do real time. And that real time just is left so many times where I'm like sitting there waiting on a turn to happen. And then I click the refresh button on my browser and it's like, actually, he was waiting on me because my system stopped interacting or whatever, stopped getting messages. And instead I've been sitting here thinking that it's his turn, but it's really my turn and I'm 3 minutes behind. And he right now at this moment could be like, quit. You know, you could just be like, kick me from the game because of how long it's been taking me. And I feel like there's just those types of situations led me to just, those are the most frustrating, Andy, to me.
Oh,
is
yeah,
like
for sure. Like,
but I agree with you. I do agree with you. Like, Board Game Arena has you click once and the game system is just automatically boom. There's a couple of them that get developed specifically with a fail-safe take-back move like Tash Kalar. But like, you know, Madeira's one that has no take-back. It's tough.
And Through the Ages sort of had it, but like not really. I don't know. That part I find frustrating. The other thing I think is that the only other issue with online games too is that not all games are good in an online format. I made the mistake of trying to play Keyflower online. Oh, dear God. Like, I wanted to stab my eyes out after 2 weeks. Because it was literally, like, just doing the spring auctions literally took a month. No. Just...
Yeah. Some games just don't, like, sometimes an auction game is kind of difficult to have in board game form. Anytime there's an auction, it's like, it's like bid one, pass, bid one, pass. It's so draggy.
Well, in the 18XX style, like that waterfall auction style, that one kind of works okay. Like, the people I play with online, we can get through that pretty quick. But we did the one in 1817, which is kind of closer to a traditional auction. And like after like 2 weeks, and we had gotten like 2 privates auctioned in 2 weeks, we were like, can we just all meet online for like an hour on Saturday and bang this out. And yeah, we literally did. We met for less than an hour and did way more than it took us 2 weeks.
Like a Discord chat room or a
Slack. And then after that, it was fine. Like it chugs along. But yeah, if you have a lot of those, normal style auctions of I bid this, I beat this, and there's no ending, it's not a once round or something, those are just pure agony online. Like by the time you're done with your auction, you're just like, I don't even care what I'm playing anymore. it's and I like me some auctions, but man, those just do not work well online.
Yeah. Auctions are tough. I mean, different game formats will work better. I think when it comes to the specific implementation, I think there is kind of a trap that developers can fall into where they want to over-embellish. And I think any time that you're going to add a three-dimensional aspect to your game, specifically if it's going to be one that's consistently running, like you're just making a game that doesn't need to suck battery out of your device, like a lot worse. The one that I'm thinking of in my head right now is Tokaido. I just like it is the Tokaido app looks fantastic, but it's actually got a certain sort of difficult to play because it's so, non-user interface. It's like got a non-UI sort of structure where it's like you kind of have to click on the different areas and then it's like you have to click encyclopedia type buttons to actually realize what they do, and you're like, oh yeah, that's what a hot spring looks like, whereas like the actual board game of Tokaido is very clear and clean and looks almost like Japanese writing. This is like, no, we want to go full on Japanese village, which it is great in the way that it looks, but it's like, what's really clear? Japanese writing is very clear, and a village is kind of up for interpretation.
Yeah. Well, and what's amusing to me is often like the games you play across the board and the games you play online are kind of like inversely proportional for what's best. So like the games that are almost agony to play across the board in terms of downtime for most people are like the best games on, like Through the Ages. Online, awesome.
Exactly.
Great.
It's the way to play those games, man.
Yeah, but like 4 players online Through the Ages, not a problem. If you come to me at a game night, 4 players Through the Ages right now on this table. No. No.
Reaction to that thought.
But yeah, like 18xx is often really good online because for us, like the people I play with at local group, Trent, Nate, and all that, we tend to err on the side of enjoyment. And so like we won't sit there and just like number chug to get that last dollar. But if you do it online, you can kind of get away with that. Like you can do the calculations, you can look carefully across.
Think very analytically, man. You go through each, like, okay, I'm in my analyzing options mood, like it's very different. It's like laser focus. I'm only thinking about the game, whereas like there's a lot of factors that go into a gaming experience within a social experience. So I mean, you're kind of taking the social aspect out of it. It's a different way to enjoy a game. Certain games I think are best enjoyed that way. Specifically ones, I tend to appreciate ones that are full of upkeep that the system can just do on its own. Through the Ages like being one of those.
Right. Like the thing that is screaming for a good online implementation is Mage Knight though, man. Why does that not exist?
Oh, dude, that would be like, I feel like I would learn so many new rules from that.
Oh, that would like no, seriously though, like an online Mage Knight, like that is a game that literally screams online.
Yeah, I feel like it would be like
because of WizKids.
Yeah, well, there is that. But I mean,
like the sound of a 3-year-old screaming online.
Yeah. But I mean, it's true. Like, but that's another one because yeah, if you said let's play 4-player asynchronous Mage Knight on an app, oh, hands down, I am there.
Yeah, I'm right.
If you said let's do 4-player across the table Mage Knight, I'd be like, or I can run in front of a bug.
Nope. Nope. Not gonna do it. 4-player Mage Knight is not.
But I often think that's
the game doesn't go to 4, Andy. You're wrong. That game does not go to 4.
Oh no, with the expansion,
caps at 3, and it actually
5.
is.
5.
What?
5-player Mage Knight.
Yeah. You could go 6. You could go 6.
But you know, like what I've seen really work well online too is card-driven war game. Twilight Struggle app is wonderful. That's a good one.
I really want to play that one, man.
That's
I know
good.
it's
That's a really good implementation of that.
I don't think it came out originally for iPhone at the same time that it came out for iPad, or is it still? I don't even know if it's got an iPhone version.
I played it on Steam. I don't know what else is available on it.
Yeah, I play it mostly on my iPad, but yeah, no, it's super slick. But I think that's a good point. Is like, when does graphical interface get in the way? Like, I think Twilight Struggle, like the graphical interface they added, really like smooths things. Like, I don't know. I really want a copy of Twilight Struggle, but I think I almost it's a game I might almost prefer over the app, because like there's nice little line graphs, and you can look at each region and see who's in the lead there. Mm-hmm. Like, so you can look very quickly and get an idea of what the game state is, so you can think about how to manipulate it. So everything's really coded well, but at the same time, it looks like you're looking at the actual board for Twilight Struggle. And so, for example, as a counterexample to that, even though I do like playing it online, like Agricola almost feels like I'm not playing the board game. Like, it's a real disconnect sometimes for me.
Well, there is like a lot of things you have to click icons on the screen to show something, so you don't really have like the ability to look at everything at the same time.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of the issue I had. Like, I almost got to the point where I just clicked the thing that says show all, so I'm not even looking at the graphics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's not even a Twilight Struggle app on the iPhone yet. You have to have an iPad, and right now my iPad
is a little bit graphics intensive. Like, I think even on I had, before I got my iPad Pro, I think I even had like an early generation 3, and it did not run worth a darn on it. Mm-hmm. That, weirdly enough, as much as it looks like the board game, it's I think it's because of the AI engine on or something, but it's kind of a beast. Like, it would really slow to a crawl on my old iPad. Yeah. And I guess that's another thing that's potentially an issue. If you think about it, as much fun as it is to play games online, like, you're kind of missing that physicality of it. And this is kind of a side point to it, because what I have found is there's many games I've played online and I tried a lot of times and could just not grasp how this game was supposed to be played. And then I play it across the board, and I'm like, oh, and then I can go play it online just fine. But I don't know, do you guys ever see that? Have you ever had those issues? Or
yeah, especially when the rules are done for you, it's hard to grasp why something is happening. Mm-hmm. The way that it's happening. I've tried to learn a couple games just based off their online implementations, and then when I finally played it across the table, it was like, oh, all these mechanics make sense now. Yeah. I had somebody to explain. I could actually manipulate the pieces. It wasn't just a rule book on a screen.
I had to actually have someone teach me through the ages before I could figure it out to play it online.
Yeah,
that one really took someone sitting across me to explain little details of that game. But once I had someone across the table teach me the game, I could go play it online, no problem. It's just that first playthrough, I just needed someone to explain to me what was going on, and I could ask questions.
Yeah, that's one like that too. It's some of those, without doing the actual physical upkeep and stuff, it's hard to kind of know the nuances of what's going on behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. But I actually remember hearing, I think it was a Ludology podcast, where they talked about, they were kind of going with online board games versus computer games, and how much do you want the players to see kind of like the machinery under the hood or not. Mm-hmm. And so, because there definitely could become a certain point as you transition through this board game to sophisticated computer game where you're seeing too much, like just to the point like your brain overloads and just can't take it anymore.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting that, like, I feel like it's just a different sort of learning almost. Like it's tough to really compare the two. I do feel like that there are different online implementations that do a better job of teaching. I think that Through the Ages, it's got like an actual interactive tutorial that's, in my opinion, worth experiencing even if you know the game. I think that that's a pretty key thing to do to like make the learning of the game a little bit more engaging, which can be really nice. A lot of times, especially on a board game thing, like I do miss those finer points when learning the game and never really do fully understand. Like there are elements of the Sid Meier's Civilization series, and I've been playing this since Civ 3 came out. And this is 20 years ago, and I still don't understand precisely what, all of the systems and how they all lean on each other. Like, like the happiness faces in some, and they're constantly kind of changing too. So it's hard to keep up on them.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't know. Yeah, I find that kind of interesting is like, when is it information too much information and when is it too little? Like if players are playing and they don't have any idea what's going on, like people can become very frustrated by that. Like, back in the early days when I still played a lot of Catan, I was playing the Catan app, and like, I still swear to God that AI cheats on dice rolls. Like, no, that's not possible that they were that. Oh God, it drove me nuts. But, and that was actually another thing I read once in a study too, where you could randomize rolls in such a way that if you had two people playing each other, they're like, no, perfectly fair. And if like they thought one of them was a computer, there's like, the freaking computer's cheating. Like people could accept losses or randomness better from people than they could from machines randomizing things. But yeah, I don't know. It just seems like we're kind of entering sort of a renaissance of these online board game implementations. Like the ones that are coming out are much better, much more of a wider field. And I'm hoping it allows some people to game together that don't normally, and allow certain games that are often hard to get played across the table to be played online. Specifically, I mean, even those coin games, if you wanted to play a full coin game, you're talking a good 6 hours sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. It's much better in a asynchronous form. A lot of times those can even be the games that get done quicker because it's not so much that the actions take that long. It's just that it takes a long time for a player to consider from the wealth of options that there is, and to analyze, the direction that things could head in the round after, because you can see what's coming up next. Right. There's just a lot of things that can go into a decision, and so letting players take their time and then move along, like you end up with a better situation than one of those games. I hate it when I've made a decision and it takes like a week for this decision to play out because I'm having to like click finish move 15 times. And really what we're doing at this point is all programmed. It's just, St. Petersburg is one of the worst ones that can show show this way, where it's like, all right, we can just say like, I'm going to get this card, you're going to get this card, I'm going to get this card, you're going to get this card. This is how it's going to go. But we're going to have to play this out. And this is going to take us like a day at least. And this is if we're both really going back and forth quick to actually get through this round. And I can tell you exactly how it's going to end right now. Like there's definitely like just ideal moves to be made right now. There's ways that you're going to play. So it's, those like games where it can take several steps of asynchronous play to get through a single rote decision that can be very frustrating. Spikerstadt is another game that can be kind of like this. It's amazing the amount of rounds that are in this game. I forget.
Oh, yeah, but it's kind of an auction.
What?
I mean, that's what established is that auctions don't often work very well this way.
No, this one is a limited amount, but it's just as like, I think you have 4 pieces in a 2-player game. So you're taking 8, you're putting down 8 things every time, but like you're doing 8 things, and then you have an execution, and that's per player. So you're talking about 18 per round, and then there's like 12 rounds. So you're talking about a total of like between about 350 moves in this game. And there's an action window, between when players are available between each and every single one. So you're talking about a game that that's 175 days, and that's if we're taking a 1 action per day thing, which is what I get to at a lot of points. If I'm at the busy part of my week or something, I can only get 1 time a day where I get caught up on all my games. So it just, it just depends on the game system, and a lot of folks, will prefer, like, you just get into a game. When it comes to synchronous play, I feel like those are games where it's like, I'm into this game, it's all I want to do right now, and I play it. But when it comes to like these, other like these asynchronous games, it's more just like I want to enjoy the fact that I've got these games that are always available and that I take turns to make sure I get caught up. But I'm really like just, letting them sort of fill up and then enjoying them like in whatever order my opponents will take their turn. So it's just a very nice, polite way of playing. And then you've got like have you guys ever played like any game like Catan on the Xbox or anything?
I was about to say, I actually played board games on Xbox Live. That's how I started. I had Carcassonne, Catan, and there was another one, but I played the Xbox Live version of Catan a lot more than I ever played the board game version.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Xbox Live version is one that I played more than anything too, and it, it's one of those synchronous games. I feel like it's you can't do Catan asynchronous. You can't do trading asynchronous. I mean, yes, you can have like offers and stuff, but it just seems kind of silly. And I guess I shouldn't say you can't, but like I just don't. I guess I'm not drawn to seeing how they implement something that has to be done in real time, essentially, to a asynchronous format. I've never seen anybody even attempt to do that. But I do think we're seeing, though, like you're seeing games that are including apps as part of their functionality as well. Like I think you could make an argument that like the actual gameplay element of like One Night Ultimate Werewolf, which I just played earlier today, is to the point where it's like, this is this app integrated type of a game. Now, I guess maybe we should say that like app integrated games, we should leave that to another time to see like, what type of tools you could use, and specifically talk about adaptations, more so than redoing. But then even then I'm led to this weird question for UTC.
Yeah.
And that is, you have just played a game that is like sort of almost like a child of a video game and a card game. And from what you've described, it sounds like they've almost designed it to be closer to a different card game by the same company, almost reflecting like a sort of evolution in their own design path, where they think that, a smaller deck building experience, a more concise deck building experience is, keeping it limited to 30 cards. And then, we're seeing something else happen here, though, where you're seeing a new intellectual property. I don't want to say a new intellectual property maybe because it's also Lord of the Rings, but it's like a new game. It's a new product.
Fantasy
it's not
Flight,
something you can just go buy, right?
Fantasy Flight has always been on the forefront of experimenting with this type of thing. The first one I remember them doing is that when they did the app for Descent 2nd Edition, where you could play it where the app actually ran the game, you didn't have someone running it. Then I really enjoyed Mansions of Madness 2nd Edition. That is a fantastic little game, and that app does a whole lot to add mood and tension and story to that game. And
I thought I read somewhere where Mansions of Madness is going to get like a full online game.
Yeah, there's it's called hang on, I have it pulled up here. It's called Mansions of Madness Mother's Embrace, and no one knows quite what it is yet. All they know it's separate from the board game, and it's supposed to be its own independent game where you control different people and kind of a weird dungeon crawl thing. It looks very interesting. I got my eyes on it. Definitely. And then even Fantasy Flight did that. What was that? Shoot, it's a PC game. Oh, can't even think of it. But it had an online app where you all work together and you're trying to figure out XCOM. That's what it is. XCOM. That was pretty slick little implementation. So they've always been
XCOM, the video game. What is, there's like these different implementations, but then you've got like essentially a video game that is a board game, kind of, right?
Yeah, no, XCOM. Yeah, even the new version, when they redid it, they basically had like a print and play board game they did to work out all the systems before they programmed it.
So they started as a board game.
They started as a board game.
And even Asmodee is, the Asmodee Digital is making a big push. I'm looking at I mean, a port of Terraforming Mars, which I would be very interested in because I don't like keeping up with the tableau on that or the little cubes, but actually a digital implementation of that takes care of all that might be kind of
neat. And the other thing is, the biggest complaint I've ever heard about Terraforming Mars, and I would actually agree with somewhat, is it just seems to go a hair too long across the table every time. And don't get me wrong, I actually kind of enjoy playing it, but it always seems like it goes longer than it should for what you're getting. Whereas if you're doing that, say, asynchronously online, that would pull a lot of that away.
Yeah, it would get, all the keeping, and then plus maybe it like remind you what your tableau can do. I mean, that's the thing that kills me about them. Like, I'll be like, oh, it'll be my turn, and I forgot to do like 4 things in my tableau before passing crap. But the one port that Asmodee is working on that I'm very curious about and I'm very excited about is Gloomhaven. I am chomping at the bit to get my hands on that early access.
That would be another one that would be really good.
Could you imagine the setup on that time? The setup time would just be knocked down to nothing. You could just play
we can finish our campaign.
Yeah. I mean, but Asmodee Digital's making a huge push here for digital games, and it seems to be a trend. And like I said, Lord of the Rings: The Living Card Game Digital does have the potential to take off if they can just get that freaking economy and money under control. We'll see, but yeah, 5 Tribes. Wow, they're making a Bang. Wow, Asmodee's really pushing it. So
I wonder how much of this has come from the fact that everybody seems to want a solo mode.
That's
in
true.
Their board gaming.
That's true.
Yeah,
and I don't know, like there were apps coming out for board games prior to everybody like, well, does it come with a solo mode? But is this just kind of replacing the need for a solo mode if you have an app for it now, or a way to play it online with people that you frankly don't know or can't meet with, because there's a lot of people out there that don't have a board game group that are like, oh, I need a solo mode for this game.
I mean, just think about, I mean, with GMT doing digital games. I mean, I remember they were working on a digital implementation of Twilight and struggled for years, and finally they just dumped that developer and went, "Your guys, this is junk." No, and they went to Kickstarter with Playdeck to fund that thing. And
Playdeck does some good stuff.
Yeah. Can you imagine a coin game where the bots are automated for you?
Oh, that would make life.
Holy smoke! That would be worth the purchase alone.
Oh, sure. But here's the thing that tells you that the whole app and online thing is coming. Asmodee, like, I would buy into that they're going to make digital versions of their games. But when GMT is like, we're going to like automate and do apps for almost our whole catalog, starting with these, I'm just like, wait, what? Like, that caught me from nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they announced that partnership. But yeah, I mean, when you're sitting on like the number 2 ranked game on Board Game Geek, that's a contract as a developer you want to have with a company. I mean, come on. That's good stuff. But yeah, and I have full confidence that GMT will make sure it's a good product, because they in the past have shown that they are willing to deep sick something if it's not working. Heck, remember how long it took them to upgrade their website? They were like, no, you guys stink. No, this is garbage. We're just gonna take longer and do it right. That's just with their operating system.
Exactly.
Yeah, and they've always listened to their community pretty well. So I mean, that's you can really count on that. The backing, which is nice.
Yeah,
I would say that like the most troubled app that I can think of is the Dominion. Dominion just I just can't. I don't know, man. If you love Dominion, right now you have the ability to play all the Dominion, and many experienced Dominion players. And here's what I think. Here's where I think everybody is when it comes to Dominion. Everybody unanimously hated like the original developers of Dominion, because like they would have just this bizarre sort of. It almost made me like kind of pity. It's like they had a loading screen that seemed like it showcased only the most ugly Dominion cards. It's like they chose like the harem to show like the artwork of the harem like floated around, and it's like, why'd you choose that? That looks terrible. And then they would choose other like clashing artwork to go with it, and I almost felt kind of like almost bad that like I like the idea of a loading screen of something where I'm not just staring at nothing, but like you're showing me the worst art in this game, and you're showing it to me right next to art that makes absolutely no sense for it to come from the same game. So it's like, I don't know, it's almost like they almost did it ironically, and then there was just a disconnect between the developing and how long it would take for the developers to communicate with like the people that were actually backing the app and financially supporting it. It was just a weird experience. And so then they scrapped that. And now the system that they went to is like subscription based.
What? Oh yeah. Yeah.
And so they took all these things. Like I spent like $40 or $50 on Dominion to have all of it up to like the adventures stuff. And now like that converted to a subscription that lasted like a year. And during that year, I really wasn't playing a ton of online Dominion. And I also didn't like, it was tough because you had to convert to this new whole system and it felt weird. It was really like, it almost felt like a step backward because it was more like, it was almost like going from Windows Vista to Windows 90, Windows 97, which it was like, I like this better because it was comfortable and nice when it worked, but it feels like I've taken a step back in time, and you've taken all the crap that sucked out, but you haven't really made it seem modern or good, or and the fact that you like give me a subscription that is not based on how much I use it, but based on a certain finite amount of time during which time I didn't really use it, like I kind of feel like I got something stolen from me in a way,
I mean that's the thing is even Dominion. Okay, it's like you have this immensely popular gateway game. It shouldn't be that freaking hard to make an app that works for that.
Did any of you play the Android Minion or Androminion, however you say that? It was on Android a long time ago before they started making the official app.
I heard it was pretty good.
It was actually really good. It was just text.
Yeah.
No art. But it worked really well, and it was the whole base game and everything. I don't know if there were any expansions. There might have been, but it was perfect. And then the guy had to stop because they were making the official one.
Yeah, but it's like seriously, you got a gateway game. It should not have been that difficult.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's just the whole, I think what they tried to do with the original one was to make it like a Facebook app and to really make it accessible to more people. And I think that to a certain extent there was success there. Like I could play it on Facebook, and without even having to load it. And then they switched it to make it to where if you didn't have the Facebook app, you had to have it as a downloaded program and run it as a program, which meant that I could only play it on Facebook, or I couldn't play it on a computer, the computer that I generally use as my, while I'm working. I'm also, like trying to take a turn or two on games when I'm at home, like planning something. I don't have like administrator rights, so I can never run that program. Like some of us have a computer during which we don't, on which we don't have administrator rights, so we can't install things. Some people do. And so I couldn't actually play the Dominion the way it was meant to be played. I had to play in Facebook, which felt weird, but at least it was an option. And now it's just like,
and they still let you on Facebook?
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah, we had like a draconian tech manager, man. You couldn't even load YouTube without like the thing freaking out at you.
Jeez. No, ours isn't that bad.
Now, if I wanted to show the kids a YouTube video, like I literally had to bring my laptop from home.
Well, this one, like the YouTube or not the Dominion app, is just very troubled. It's a game that I love, a game that I like. I'm sad because I had over 1,000 plays logged on the older version, and then coming to this new version, it just like I don't know. It felt like it was a lot of the accessibility was gone. So the people that were the most loud complainers shut up because the accessibility was never an issue. The accessibility never targeted them. The accessibility was always for other players, and that was some of their frustration was that it was made to be accessible as opposed to made to just be very functional. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's why the core gamers that support it, like they've got their subscription and they're just fine. And people who really love Dominion want to play it can play it, and they're happy with that, and they're fine. But there's been a lot of sacrifices in this conversion, and a lot of people, a lot of more gateway level gamers, a lot of people that it was only something that they played because it was accessible to them via Facebook. Like those are just an entire audience that is just gone. And I almost wonder if this isn't like sort of Rio Grande Games being like, oh, I tried to do board game apps and just no. Just not again, not another one of those. I can imagine just feeling like really frustrated with like my community says all this, and then now look at this. Like we're losing all, we're getting consistent subscription money from people who are continuing to support, but like we just lost so much audience, so much, you know, time, effort, money in the process, and
Even
I don't know, it's
worse
kind of
than the
confusing.
MySpace Avalon Hill thing. No, that never happened, but God, it'd be awful.
So
in which case, half our audience is just like, "What's MySpace?"
I think people remember MySpace. If they don't know MySpace, it's probably because they still don't know anything beyond email.
No, the best one was it when I emailed like Phil Eklund a couple of years ago. He was still rocking an AOL account.
Nice. That's right. I want to do like a AO, like something that looks like a lowercase L, like an AO1.
Oh no, my daughter's like vocal lessons teacher still uses Hotmail, and I'm like, that even exists?
Yep.
Still almost as bad as when you want to do anything with 18xx and you have to go to a Yahoo group.
Overall, if you are looking to play games with your board game podcast host, you can find me on Yukata. The way that I kind of handle things is I will just create 5 or 6 invitations of a game I feel like playing. And then I just keep on doing that. I'll usually set up like 40 games. And then I will not create, nor will I join a game until I get down to like 7, to the point where I'm like, holy crap, did I just take 1 turn and that's all that I have to do today? Like 1 game? And then I'm like, okay, it's time for me to just get a bunch more games going. So I tend to play very like based on my own schedule like that, and let other people join my games, and I'll get into them whenever. But if you want to send me an invite, let me know about it. You know, goodboardugly@gmail.com. I try to keep current on that. Let me know, and I'll tell you my username and whatnot, so you can take a look for it. But basically, I'd love to play with you. I generally do play on yukata.de, which is a program that I find just very, I won't say usable, but just very solid. Very like it's kind of bare bones, but it has all the artwork from the game. It's always just what I like to think of as like exactly what I want and nothing more, because that would be potentially trouble. It's like, you know, the sort of beautiful efficiency of a Euro game produced well and right, and not a hair too much spent on it.
Yeah. And remember, play online games with Joe. It's the best experience because he can't talk.
There you go. You just get to deal with me without having to deal with the actual me, the actual unbearable, unsupportable, insufferable.
I kind of feel like sometime we need to do like when the Dice Tower had to put out that statement that they said, it's like, no, we really all love Jason. We just like to mess with each other.
Yeah, the same way with like Stephen Bonacore, you know, it's like you when you mess with somebody, like people like that don't know how close you really are outside of a podcast, don't get it that you're like ribbing each other, and it's like, you know, they don't understand that like, no, this is okay. We can do this to each other. Yeah. Then again, sometimes you end up with somebody who maybe thinks they're close enough to the podcast to start ribbing people. And really, like, I just think of that person as like, why are you constantly ribbing me? I don't even like you. I don't know you. I don't know who you are that well, but keep on ribbing me. Join our podcast community and give me crap. It's fine. You never know. So I would say though, yeah. I feel though, like in an online environment, usually I get absolutely the most polite gamers that I would expect. I think the only thing that I ever hear from Yukata is like people that are saying things like "good luck, have fun."
Yeah.
Rare. I don't think I've ever seen anybody really rage on that. The chat is just rare. It's usually polite. Usually just something that
vastly better than any modern warfare combat. Blah blah blah. Oh God.
They're just very polite. I mean, and somebody will notice that you, like, I've had people notice that the game's going to go for me, and they say like, you know, well done, congrats. Like, and that to me is just, it's made me try to start doing that myself, because it seemed to me at first, I was like, holy crap, what a huge thing to do. What a great thing to be like, hey, good job. You know, like shake that person's hand. Right. You know, it's something that,
and on a side note, though, a funny story, and it's the last I'm gonna, because it's getting late, I'm gonna say, but there was a woman that played online games in a couple of these like toxic communities or whatever, and she'd have these boys like saying these most god awful remarks to her and whatnot. But what they failed to realize is she was also an expert computer hacker. and she would literally like voice record these things, locate them, and then email the voice recordings to their mother.
Yeah, well, you won't have to worry about people doing that for your yukata behavior. I've very rarely seen any negative things. And usually when somebody has whined, I've always felt bad for them. I've always felt like, yeah, that was not fair at all. That was just like the fact that you rolled a 1 on your food roll in Stone Age, and it's like that just, you know, that's it. You're taking the -10. That's just too much. Like it's, you know, there are some times when it's just like, holy crap, how could that have gone so poorly for me?
To be fair, there's been like a few times where my wife got like nasty responses on like chess. Because like there's a main chess thing where people play, and like some people have been real dicks there. Most people are pretty nice, but she's gotten a few times where people have like been pretty sexist in their remarks. But then she just disabled chat, so everything was fine.
Yeah, there you go, man. That's what you can really do when it comes down to it. I would say the biggest, most interesting thing that I've seen from Board Game App is just like seeing a Phil Eklund game actually have its rules enforced by a logical system and not a, I think there's a rule for this that we haven't been doing right this whole time.
Yeah. You really need like one for PAX Renaissance now.
That's what I was about to say. So every time we play PAX Ren, I think there was a rule we missed.
Yeah, I think that we've been playing this wrong, and I went back to the rulebook, read it again, and I'm pretty sure that the way that it's worded, when this comes up, we need to check this number here first, because you're not supposed to be able to attack unless you have something in this area surrounding 2.
Yeah, and then like the people are like, come on, how many times have you played this? Oh, this is play 20.
It is, yeah. Yeah, there was rules checks in the championship of that happened. That we have a listener here who was the champion of. So
there was the heavy con one they did or whatever it was. Yeah.
Correct. Yes. So there's just a lot of fun to be had on Board Game Apps.
Like half of it was just like convincing someone you were playing by the correct rules.
Pretty much. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I can do that. You have to pay for each one of those. What? So
it's referenced in section 2.A3 subsection 5.
If you got somebody that knows the game that well, I want to play with them because I want to know the game. I want to finally figure this game out. Like, please show me that person, Andy. Mm-hmm. Why can't you be that guy, Andy? Why can't you be a code head on a Phil Eklund game?
Because I have dyslexia.
Oh, Andy. So
it's amazing if I get the rules right at all.
So TC, when it comes down to it, it sounds like the amount of content in this Lord of the Rings game is enough to keep you interested, keep you playing, at least to see what happens. I'm excited to play with a more, less of a solo game, more of a 2-player game. Do you play? So that's pretty close to one of your first forays into playing like online or not, like non-physical tabletop games.
Yeah, it's one of the few. Like I said, I got Catan, Carcassonne, Twilight Struggle, and then you made me get through the ages. That's it.
Wait a minute.
And mainly because most of my online time is around my Xbox One. So.
Oh, so you haven't had a chance to really dig into it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, that's your fault.
I know. Most things are. I did do my research for the Lord of the Rings digital game. I did it. There you go. Yeah.
So,
bam, done.
From what TC just said, though, just to put that in different words, I hooked him up, and he just chose to leave it, to just let it be, and it was just one of those like, why did I even try moments on my end.
It's in my Steam library. Right next to my Lord of the Rings game. It's right there. Through the age.
Right next to the Lord of the Rings game that you downloaded on an impulse after people complained about it and it got mixed reviews and you thought, this looks like kind of a potential dumpster fire. I'll get this. Oh yeah, that game that Joe says is like changed his life and he played so much. Nah, not worth trying. Not worth it.
Fortnite got popular.
Could be that Fortnite did that. I think Fortnite mainly just made itself accessible. So I think that accessibility is great. I think that, Andy, what you said, having the ability to like press a button that says finish move, confirm move, all it does a lot of the times is just make me think, yes, I'm ready to go on to the next game. Yes, that's what I wanted to do. And sometimes I choose no. But it's always like, okay, once I've chosen to do this, once random is revealed, I can't go back. But unless random has been revealed, I want to be able to take back my moves. If your game doesn't let me do that, I'm going to have frustrating experiences with it. It's going to sometimes keep it so that I don't want to play the game anymore, especially when I'm like finally going to beat that freaking level 4 difficulty on Friday. And then I accidentally, while I'm waiting for a graphic to fade slowly to the background, I press on the screen and make a decision that's totally the wrong decision, but I'm forced into it, and now I died, and I lost, and I was winning. So
sounds like a good game to me.
Not a real story. Not a real, just asking for a friend.
Well, it sounds along the lines of like, because my wife plays chess online, and when you have like the touchpad on a laptop and like the program goes, oh, you just move this piece in the incredibly suboptimal position.
Yes. And that's nice to have too. Like, make sure that you use all the resources that you should use every round. Like anything that you're just going to waste, make sure it gets activated. It's really nice. You can tell when those touches have been put in by the developers who want to make a smooth experience. Thank you to any developer that does that, because it's, yes, it feels like it's like a modern touch, but it's not unanimous. It's not necessarily a standard across the board. A lot of us have made a move specifically in Board Game Arena and been like, oh, no, oh! And this is round 1 of 7.
Which means you've got to deal with the suboptimal play for the next 2 months.
I have to do it.
Yeah.
So it's a misclick, not even suboptimal play, misclick. Like,
which screwed your game for the next 2 months, pretty much. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. It's so awful. It is so awful. So
and then you don't want to be that person and just like forfeit the game and be done with it.
Okay, so check out if you're interested in joining the Yukata, me with my Yukata adventures. You should join the Good Board Ugly Slack. The Good Board Ugly Slack channel has a link available on the Good Board Ugly Guild. I will try to post something on that so that link comes back up to the front. Then that's a great place for us to network on the outside of the podcast. That way we don't be like, hey, Mur, hey, get a game going for me, would you? I'll wait. We'll all wait while you get. Hey guys, we can wait, right? We can wait while Mur gets this game started, and then I can start playing, and then we can keep podcasting after I get done. How about we do that outside of the podcast? And let's actually. Anybody have any final thoughts about board game apps here before we keep the ball rolling? Hype time.
Let's see your final thoughts. I'm gonna play more Lord of the Rings and let you know. How about that?
Okay.
There we go.
Good.
Sounds great. All right, I'm excited to play Empires of the Void 2. That's my quick hype. It's a Ryan Lockhett game. Looks to be kind of like a mixture between a simpler Euro and a Twilight Imperium 3 type game, where the combat is dice combat, but it's specifically made to be not harsh on the loser of the combat. So I'm looking forward to seeing exactly how that wrinkle gets added in. The beautiful production of this game is complemented by a design process book that is fantastic to read. I'm currently in the midst of preparing for a episode of the Longview podcast specifically about Ryan Lockett's games. Empires of the Void 2 is what he's calling it. So not even just a second edition, kind of like just a sequel game. And I'm looking forward to trying out this one, which has variable player powers, variable technologies, I should say, that players can upgrade. And it's just several different planets can be in the game, and you're going to set up the planets in different areas on this main board. And then you're going to be fighting each other. And each of these planets has a unique deck of cards specifically for that planet that you shuffle. And so it kind of tells the story of what's going on in this planet. And you have the ability to fulfill quests on these planets that will help you to, as you being like this certain faction that's trying to make a living for yourself on the breaches of space, you will be encountering some of the already pre-existing peoples who are looking for people to help sort of protect them. And you'll be fulfilling that sort of a role, of course, as you antagonize other players and look through these, examine these decks that sort of tell the story of a civilization, and you try to win. So that is Empires of the Void 2. I'm very much looking forward to it. That's my hype. And let's hear from another hypester here. I am wanting to hear, right after me, how do you follow that, Disney or TC? Of course, with a Disney product.
Oh yes. I was at CloudCap, my local game store, and I was there when the store under James was opening all these games. And he busted out this game. It says Disney Villainous. I'm like, what is that? And he's like, oh, let's take a look at it. I don't know, because he just orders a bunch of stuff. So we're looking at it, and like, it plays up to 6 people, and each person plays a unique Disney villain, and each person has a unique set of goals and their own cards. And I was like, hey, that looks pretty cool. So I call my house. I'm like, hey, Kate, would you play a Disney villain game? In about 3 seconds, she said yes. She wants to play Maleficent. I got Jafar. We're going to play it this weekend. I'm really curious if this is going to be any good or not. But my kids are excited about it. I'm kind of excited to be playing Jafar because Jafar is cool, right? So, yeah, I out of nowhere game I'm curious to try.
Hey, if nothing else, I've seen it played. And I've got a guy here that I've played games with a couple times who played it with his wife, who's a big Disney fan, and they both liked it quite a bit. So,
oh, hey, there we go. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah,
the people at the table that I saw playing it before seem to be enjoying themselves.
Right. Well, yeah, I'll give you an update.
If they have the hunter who shot Bambi's dad.
Oh, Andy. You just want to be Villainous is a biographical story. Andy, what was it like having them pry apart your life to make the different sort of devious acts?
Related Bambi story. When I was teaching 8th grade, a girl came into my class to make up a test, and I said, I saw a rabbit this morning. I named it Thumper. She's like, oh, why is that? I'm like, sound it made under the car.
Yep, that's great. Fantastic for you to say that, dude.
Traumatizing young minds.
Dead rabbit jokes. Yep. Great, man. That's where we're going. And now, from Disney's Villainous, thank you, TC.
You're welcome.
It's an interesting. I mean, like, this game has been making, it's been making some waves.
Yeah, it's got some hype around it. So
yeah, it's not the first I've heard of it. It's the first I've heard of it from you, though. So I hope you get a chance to check it out. All right. Now, moving on to Andy, who's going to be hyping up the upcoming expansion, right? Upcoming expansion,
Yeah.
newest in the COINFEST series from Andy. We're going to hear about an expansion to a coin game.
Well, to the coin series. COINFEST is what JMT is calling it. So the one I'm particularly interested in is, let's see if I can pronounce this right this late at night. Ariovistus or something like that. This one would be the expansion as well as update to Falling Sky, which came out, was it 2 years ago, I believe? Which was the coin game set in sort of the Gallic Roman kerfuffle there with Caesar. And anyway, what this one is supposed to do is actually switch up some of the playable races. So in the first game, like the Germans were sort of this automated faction that just kind of made everybody's life difficult. But in this one, you actually play the Germans. So it's set in like an earlier time frame. Instead of like Caesar's kicking butt in Gaul, it's kind of the work up to that. So you've got this kind of new historical episode based on that system. You've got this new faction coming into play. So 3 of the factions will be similar. This will be a new one. And as well as upgraded components. So that's for Falling Sky, which is what I'm really looking forward to. But not only at that time, you're actually seeing upgrades to all of the coin games. So, for example, you can buy the Fire in the Lake upgrade, which will contain kind of rules fixes, better artwork, better components, that kind of thing. And so you can do that for any GMT coin game. So they're calling it COINFEST. But the particular one, like I said, I'm interested in is the expansion as well as upgrade to Falling Sky, because I enjoyed that one quite a bit. It was really interesting to see how coin could apply to ancient warfare and how that would work, and it really did kind of feel that way. And I'm really looking forward to getting that one. Other than that, God, I really need to get Pendragon to the table. I want to play that so bad.
Yeah, I got that one on the table, but I want to play Falling Sky some more. That one's really got my
it's really right now. It's just fun. Like everything in that one really does feel different. Like when you're the Romans, like you feel like I'm gonna go trounce these barbarians.
I'm gonna get Caesar out, and we're just gonna go lay waste to the countryside. It's good.
And then then you get Varus and Getorix or whatever just come in and start like obliterating the land. You're like, okay, maybe it's not as easy as I thought.
Of all the coin games I'm playing right now, I really want between that. I want to get Falling Sky out, and if it's just 2 players, I want to get Colonial Twilight back out. Those are the 2 big ones right now for me. As soon as I get my head wrapped around Falling Sky, I may move on to Pendragon, but it's going to be a while.
And Pendragon looks like, oh god, that one looks like a freaking rabbit hole. Like, it's crazy.
They all are. They all are.
Anyway, that's my hype. Looking forward to it. Should be, I think, next month is when GMT starts charging, so probably end up having it in my hands by hopefully Christmas then.
Yeah, I am really looking forward to the upgrade kit for Fire in the Lake. That one should be, of all of them, that one's most substantial.
Right.
Be really good.
Well, and it's nice that even though they're doing new ones, they're really showing love to these older ones that not all of these have hit in the reprint cycle yet, but yet the upgrades are getting kicked out. That's just kind of cool.
Yeah. Well, Mark Herman's really good at that. He's always, never forget the Empire of the Sun, the newest edition of that where he added tweaked the rule book. He's tweaking that game. And it's even Washington's War. He's always tweaking his games. It's always nice to see that.
Very cool. That is the newest expansion, Falling Sky, to the newest expansion to Falling Sky, the Gallic Revolt against Caesar, the Ariovistus, and now, David, I have as a placeholder here the Twilight Imperium 6th edition.
Yep.
Skip right on over 5. Apparently, that one is supposed to be the Windows ME of the Twilight Imperium series.
That's the lost edition we don't talk about. It's like, there was a 5th edition, but it's kind of like D&D, that edition you don't really talk about. 4th edition
D&D. Some weird elements, and it kind of became that weird redheaded stepchild that you just ignore.
Cult following.
My brother actually had computer tech help, and he always told people, I have Windows Millennium, I'm upgrading to 95.
Pretty much, yeah. Windows 98, I guess, is the one I should have said. I said 97. That's not a Windows. Darn it. Missed it. Well, David, did you have anything to hype? Did you want to?
Yeah. I don't know if I've hyped it before, but I'm excited to get it. The Monsoon Publishing, Tony Chen's Warriors of Jogu is coming.
Yeah.
Finally getting my hands on that. Played it a couple times with you, Joe.
Yeah.
And I've just really been excited to see what he does with his designs, and he's got some. He's put up some prototype pictures, I think, as well of the next design that he's got going, and so far I've just been really liking what he's put out there. So Warriors of Jogu is a 2-player kind of like battle line card game in a way, with some bluffing and whatnot, where you're placing them in battle positions, and it scores only off of 1 for each side, and you're trying to figure out what the other side card that was. So it'll be really interesting, and I'm hoping it's something that I can get the wife to play as well, since it's 2-player only.
Yeah. I've got my wife playing this one with me, and she is just taken to a single deck, and she's probably
that
played
might be
15
the case.
games.
Yep.
Yeah, she likes that one. I mean, it's a very, very nice, one that she's grown comfortable with, and one that she feels, and I never know what to expect from it. I feel like I'm always, like she's always cooking up some sort of a new plan. It's one of those games where the round to round variation, but the general feel of a deck will be the same. The round to round variation is going to always present a new challenge.
Yeah, for sure. But this is one, and I feel like he did it with Iberian rails too. Took cube rails and just made it his own, and just tweaked it enough where it's still obviously cube rails game, but it blows me away what he did with that design. Same type of thing with this, where you've had the dueling cards games out there before, and he's taken that idea and just added bluffing and a different type of scoring element to it, along with factions to it that really change kind of how that mechanic goes. And it's really exciting to see that and what he's got in store next. So,
absolutely. Very cool stuff coming from him. Well, that's all we have for this episode of The Good, the Bored, and the Ugly. I'm the host of The Good, the Bored, and the Ugly, Joe Stalin. I've joined tonight by David, special guest, by TC, and by Andy. It's been great having you guys on.
Man, thanks, guys.
Awesome time.
Bye-bye.
Have a great week of gaming, and catch us next week on The Good, the Bored, and the Ugly.